Elizabeth Warren, her gun plan talks about raising taxes on gun manufacturers from 11% to 50%.
But I think Andrew Yang's freedom dividend, his it's kind of like UBI light in my mind, right? It's not that much, but
it's maybe one of the best marketed fucking things I've ever heard in my whole life.
Yeah.
The freedom dividend, Jesus Christ.
News that you could tell they don't necessarily like to report.
Yeah, but they do. Yeah,
that's 538.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan, cause that's what's that? Let's get ready.
And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, we are back to Salt of the Streets podcast.
This is Saturday, August 31st, 1:17 p.m., episode 67.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Salt of the Streets podcast, your one and only source for social and political commentary on all the weekly news, pop culture, and sports that you can handle. And the best part about the whole deal, it's all built from the ground up for people like you and me, the everyday normal person. So come down and join us as we discuss life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and continue our endless efforts to bridge the gap between people and information. Not bad for a few weeks off.
Oh, nice.
As always, we are your hosts. I am Colin.
I am Donovan.
And coming up on this week's show, we got another big old grab bag for you. We're going to be covering topics from Epstein to China to 2020 candidates and everything else in between.
I get
and
hell
more.
of stuff about candidates.
I'm highly excited about that because I got some spin-off topics that like big picture type stuff I want to get into. But before we get into all that good stuff, it's been a few weeks. I spent some time out in the woods. We put a couple of blog posts out, which was really cool.
Blog posts.
Look at that. Like almost like we're professionals, bro. Even when we're gone, there's content still getting put out, baby.
Boom.
So I would personally like to thank you for your heavy part in that situation. I appreciate that.
For sure, bro.
It takes so much. It's so nice to be able to just disappear out in the woods for a few days and forget about everything.
I'm happy that I was able to do it, you know?
Yeah.
It took 2 weeks, but I was able to do it.
Dude, I will say, your blog post was like 8.5, 9 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was great.
You like that?
It was so good.
It's been a while since I've done one of the audio blog posts.
It's a different animal.
My friend Chad, who is in the league with us, he used my blog post as a source for a paper he wrote for one of his classes. He had to write a paper on like social media and the negative effects, and he used my blog post as a source. It's like, that's funny, bro.
I would love to know the context.
Yeah. I'm probably going to ask him to read that paper after he turns it in.
No, that would be dope. Like, I would imagine the tact on that would be, that with all the negative effects of social media, there is still some good that comes through. There are still people that we do a better goddamn job half the time of digging into the facts than the New York Times and the Washington Post does anymore.
What?
Which, can I just say, I kind of want to talk about this at some point today, but I went away only for like 3-4 days, right?
Yes.
And I had no social media contact. I had no nothing. Most of the time, I didn't have any service whatsoever, which I did find out really cool. Your GPS location still fucking works, even if you have no service at all. It's pretty sweet.
911 with no service, too.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah. People don't know that, but it will just automatically... I mean, as long as there's some way for your phone to receive service. Like, obviously, if there's no reception at all, then you can't. But it will ping off of any tower that it can reach.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel good about that, considering where the fuck I was.
Regardless of your cell phone carrier.
Hanging out in fucking Grizz territory, bro.
Yeah. Did you see any animals while you were out there?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
I saw, what did I see? Cattle.
Oh, really?
A shit ton of them.
Is that it?
On a fucking mountain.
Really?
Yeah, so
People just letting their cattle roam?
That was something that I had no real idea was a thing. So this is one of the pictures from where we were. I'll go ahead and I'm gonna be throwing these up on the Salt of the Street Instagram if you're interested in looking at some of the most gorgeous country that we have.
Yeah, that's fucking cool.
It blows my fucking mind to think that there are There's places like that where you can, I mean, this wasn't even like the middle of it. This was the outskirts of it. We were like maybe 10 miles into the backcountry. Maybe.
What's up.
And for miles and miles and miles, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Just fucking nature.
It was you and your brother, right?
Yeah. And it's all at once like incredibly exciting and gorgeous, but still incredibly humbling. And it makes you feel really, really, really small. Yeah. And you go, wow, if this is what it was like before we came in here and like fucked it all up to make it so like it's safe for us, like people, there would be like no people left. Yeah. There would be nobody around because nobody can live out there unless they really know what they're doing and are well prepared.
I've been watching this show called Alone. That's on the History Channel. And they took 10 dudes and they went up to Alaska and dropped them off at different points, like 10 miles or so apart in this like little sound. Mm-hmm. And they're like, just exist. Like they let them bring 10 things off this list of 40, and so they're like different survival things. You can only bring 10 things and you don't get to talk to anybody. There's like, there's something that will stop you from being able to reach the people that are around you. And you don't get to know when anybody quits. You don't get to know how many people are left or anything like that. And you can only live off of like the shit you brought and whatever you find there. So then the last person doing it gets like $500,000.
I'd be down as fuck to do that. Are you kidding me? That sounds like a vacation.
Yeah, it was really interesting, the amount of people that I think that you might actually be able to do something like that. There's a lot of people that could, like a bunch of dudes that really struggled with being by themselves, Oh, yeah. And you enjoy people like in the way of interacting and like doing with whatever, but I don't think you would be insanely bothered by that much time to like self-reflect. Like you might get into some really dark, dangerous territory, but I don't think that you would like ever be at a point where you're like, I can't handle being alone, No. Like,
no, I'm very comfortable.
I mean, eventually you would go crazy and then not care anymore, but at least in the purposes of this competition, like I don't think that would be as big of an obstacle for you as it was for some of these other people on this show,
Like, where's my fucking Twitter at?
Yeah. It was one dude made a boat, like he made a little canoe out of fucking, branches and shit that he cut down and then wrapped a tarp around it and used it to get somewhere. And another dude made this enormous, like this fucking native fish trap thing. It was this huge wooden cone. Oh, it was crazy, bro. It was insane.
Those things are badass, man.
That those people made. It took him like 4 days, but it was all made out of sticks that he found in like vines and stuff. And he wove it all. It was crazy, bro.
That's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this real quick.
It's on Prime. You should watch that.
It's on Amazon Prime?
Yeah, it was a History Channel show. It's called Alone. It was you would really like it.
Alone on Prime.
Yeah. Some of those people are stupid. One dude was drinking unfiltered water. He was taking water and pouring it through moss and then was collecting.
That's how you get Giardia.
Yeah.
Don't do that, bro. Idiot. You're going to really regret it.
Drinking water that didn't taste salty but was still seawater. So he was fucking hallucinating. He's sitting in his tent and he's hallucinating, bro.
I'm wondering if he did that shit on purpose now.
Dude, crazy. Yeah, and so he was telling the people who came to pick him up, and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, you can't be drinking that water. You can't be doing that, man." Yeah,
that's funny. See, like that's what I wanted Survivor to be originally. Like I wanted that to really be Survivor. Yeah, like a group of people just like, all right, good fucking luck, guys. There's cameras all over the place, Tropic Thunder style. Wink, wink. But
these people have to record themselves.
Oh,
you're gonna make your own shot, Survivor Man style. So you gotta put a camera out and then do whatever you're gonna do.
Dude, I'm like super into this right now. Yeah, I can't wait to watch that.
I might still be on. You should fucking.
I'll check it out.
Applying for it. Yeah.
Shit. What was I gonna say? Being alone. Oh shoot! I don't even remember. Crap! I lost it. That's right. It was not that important. It really wasn't. Oh man, But yeah,
see us lose our train of thought more often, you can check out our social medias. Yes. We have our Salt of the Streets Facebook at Salt of the Streets, our Instagram at Salt of the Streets, our YouTube at Salt of the Streets, where you can find this video, our pre-show, and all of our other videos. We have our own personal social medias. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram, and Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. You can find all of this on saltofthestreets.com. Everything is there. all of the episode stuff, our links to old episodes that are relevant to those episodes, our videos, everything you can find on there. And my wife is working on making it better now. So what were you going to say?
I was going to say in another probably 3 weeks, because it's taken me I've had this appointment now for like a month, but I will finally be able to lose the glasses again and go back to contacts.
Are you going to get eye surgery or contacts?
No, just getting contacts. Right. It's just contacts is what I'm called to make an appointment like a month ago, and they're like, yeah, we don't have anything till like mid-September.
Jesus.
Okay, well, yeah, fucking pencil me in then.
That's so weird.
But so hopefully in a couple weeks, 2 weeks from now is my actual appointment, and then hopefully by the following show, like on the 20th of September, you won't have to see all the glare in my glasses.
Back to no glasses Offie, huh?
Yeah. Dude, it's so fucking annoying.
Did you find it interesting? This is a shift of topic, but when we were at the town hall, there was a couple of people that asked about the Green New Deal. Right?
Yes.
And they asked about it
very passionately.
Yes. They asked about it really only in the frame of climate change, right? There was one girl, the young girl, who did acknowledge, I mean, yeah, probably around the same age that I was, that I am, that acknowledged there was some progressive ideals that were in it. But everyone else, the other 2-3 people that asked about it, and that's all she really said, is she said, like, I know that there's like progressive stuff in there, but climate change and blah, like, and then moved on back to climate change.
It's an existential threat I fear for my life.
Right. I thought that it was very interesting that was all they addressed, right? Because we both read it. We both have read the Green New Deal. So we both
don't take that long. It's not very big.
We both know that there's way more than just climate change stuff in there, right? Climate change as an overreaching ideal has its hand in everything that they're talking about so as to make it relevant to climate change, right?
It's more like the reason why these changes we want to make.
Right.
That's kind of what I think it does.
So I thought that was very interesting. And it struck me that they may or may not have read it if that's the only thing that they're talking about, right? And they may have read it and just agree with that other shit, and so it doesn't seem relevant to them to bring up, or they may have not read it and just hear what has been discussed, and so they know that that's what's in it, quote unquote, right? Know that that's what's in it. And I just thought that was interesting because, like I said, we've both read it. So we both know, and we talked about it for a long time. I'll go back and I'll write that down. So I'll go back and I'll find the episode that we talked about the Green New Deal, because while we were off, Representative Dan Crenshaw was on Joe Rogan, right? Have you listened to Dan Crenshaw, Joe Rogan?
Oh, dude, I wanted to wait until I had a whole day to sit. But yeah, no, I started it as soon as it popped in.
Word. So,
same with Bernie Sanders.
So I enjoyed Dan Crenshaw and Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah, it was good.
There was only a couple of things that I thought, one thing that I thought was really weird, right? Or maybe not weird, that I didn't agree with, was his views on cannabis. Right?
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
He's like, I'm going to wait and see, like what the data says about like kids using it and shit like that. And it's like, well, we already have studies that came out about that, and less kids are using it now than were then, at least being reported, right? And they're presuming it's because they're seeing their parents smoke pot now and they don't fucking think it's cool anymore, And it's
either that or they just can't get it because the black market it's still there.
Which I gotta imagine plays a factor.
But it's not as easy to get anymore because it's so easily to get legally over the counter.
And it's cheap. It's fucking cheap, dog.
It is cheap, dude.
Yeah, it's cheap.
It wasn't cheap, and now it is. It's very affordable. It's cheaper than cigarettes.
Especially if
it's cheaper than these fucking Juul pods.
If you match up like with, because most shops have like daily deals and stuff. So if you match up with a daily deal, you get a fucking joint for like $2, bro.
Yeah.
If you like never smoke weed or smoke weed rarely or didn't start until, it became legal, you get a joint for like $3 that will get you high. Like, and you'll be like, this is awesome. This is exactly what I was looking for. Or you can spend $50, on just a couple of grams of weed and get really, really fucked up, There's all kinds of different shit. So I thought that was interesting. That he's like, I'm going to wait and see, what the information is about it. Because it seems pretty clear.
It doesn't surprise me that he holds that. Yeah. It's just, it's old at this point.
Yeah.
And you could tell, like, Joe tried to, like, egg him on a little bit about it. And it was like, at this point, like, You just know there's something that he's worried about, like politically. He's not going to open that fucking Pandora's box right now. It's not what he wants to do. I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, he's not really going to give a shit because he'll just vote to stay where he's at. And if his constituent wanted enough, he'll sign off on it. He don't care. But yeah, I think that is interesting that there's still after... Oh, that reminds me. I never did get to that article that you sent me about the change in Kitsap cannabis laws.
Oh, we can talk about that too.
But it still surprised me that to this day, there's still so much misinformation out there.
Yes.
We watched a fucking thing on YouTube the other day. This guy, it's a great channel. He does great videos called Life Noggin. Big shout out to Life Noggin. He does these great animated things, little 10-minute like explainers, and he did one on cannabis and sleeping and the problems with sleeping.
Yeah.
And he got most of the things right. He did, but like I felt like he didn't do the proper context wasn't in there, and there wasn't as much nuance as there should have been. So it almost came off like you shouldn't be using it if for this and this reason versus that reason. And that was a little disingenuous, but just generally speaking, the lack of misinformation and the misconception that it has is just so vast. I think it's because the people that use it, at least where we're from, still, like a lot of people still keep it way on the down low. Yeah. They don't want their friends to know. They don't want their coworkers to know. They don't want, because they will instantly be judged. Yeah, the fucking clients. Although there's clients that partake as well. Just because I've seen, even in my little shop, man, like I see people, very prominent people in like this town, that have this appearance of such propriety. And, but they're in there too. Right. They're the ones looking over their fucking shoulder and like watching who's around before they walk into the store and they get in and out. I need to go. Yeah. And it's sad that that's where we're at when nobody bats an eyelash if you're going to talk about going to the bar and getting fucked up tonight.
Right.
But to bring it back to the Dan Crenshaw, Joe did talk about that. He's like, well, we're sitting here drinking scotch.
Right.
Doesn't that feel slightly hypocritical?
And Joe said, I could have smoked weed before this interview, which I didn't. He said, but I could have, and we would have had the same conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it would not have been, vastly different just because I got high before we had this conversation.
And it sounds so like stoner to say this, but it's like you really have no concept of what cannabis is like unless you have used it more than one time in high school. Unless you've experienced it for a little while, you have no concept of what the real aspects of it are.
Especially modern day cannabis, like that's purchased in a store, right? Because like there are some people who are concerned about like laced weed, right?
Yes.
Which is not something I've smoked a lot of pot in my days. I've smoked a lot of pot in my 24 years, right? Like I started smoking weed when I was like 13. So it's been 9 solid years, of smoking weed. I have never once purchased weed or heard of someone buying weed that was laced with something that they didn't know about. Yeah. Right. So I think that's just my experience, but I think that that's a strange thing. In older times, that was more of a concern, right? So I think that unless you have used weed where it's at now, where you don't have to be scared about what's in it, you can smoke it, take one hit and not 10 because you don't need 10 hits anymore if you don't smoke weed.
Nope.
You need one hit of some regular weed and kick it,
and just chilling.
And like, yeah.
You're like, wow, I'm not all stressed out anymore. I'm relaxed. My fucking shoulder, my knee is not in throbbing pain anymore.
Do you want to know something?
But like, I'm not high. It's like, yeah, congratulations. You're a cannabis user now, and now you understand why there's so many people that do.
Our good friend, Dave Zukowski.
Dave Z-Man.
He used to smoke all kinds of weed back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And doesn't really smoke pot anymore, but
Child of the 60s.
He probably told me this like a month, maybe like 6 weeks ago. He was like, so I decided he told me he was going to try smoking pot again. And then a couple days later was like, hey, I tried smoking pot again. Right. And I was like, tell me about it. Like, how did it go? And he was like, I went down to the weed store and I told the girl, like, I don't want to go to outer space. I just want, like some joints that like I can,
he would totally say that.
And that's exactly what he said too.
I love Z,
and
man.
so he did that and he went home and he, drank a beer and smoked like a half a joint. And he said that he got up and he went to throw the beer can away and he said that he was in more pain he's ever been in his whole life. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, he said it was like every joint pain I've ever had. He said it didn't go away. It came flaring back. He said I was bent over, walking so slow to throw away my beer can. I was like, are you fucking serious?
Hey,
and he was like, I don't know what it was. Like, I don't know what the deal is, but like whatever, however it happened, he was like, and I don't want to do it again because I was in so much pain. And I was like, and that makes sense. I was like, it's like you could, if you want, try different shit. It's like you try some CBD shit that's like not going to get you high. Like you get some stuff that's like half and half. Like there's all kinds of stuff you can do if you do want to try again, But I was like, that's so weird. I've never heard of that before. Someone smoking pot and they're in more pain than they were before.
I've never heard that.
Thought that was weird, right?
But I will say this, and this is a testament to why I think more people that are just so patently opposed to it blindly should give it a try, is because it affects everybody differently.
Yes.
For me, I think it's more of like a tolerance thing now, but like I can smoke a little bit of weed and be totally fine and not feel drowsy at all, not feel anything, and just, smoke like half a joint or something like that, and I'm good to roll. I can be very productive. There's a little bit of paranoia that kicks in for me, which I find like fuel to me, because it's like, it just makes me need to do things.
Right.
Because I get super paranoid now about being like fucking lazy.
About being too lazy.
Yeah. Unless it's like a hardcore indica strain, in which case this is like, I don't want to be alive to the world right now. I want to sit here and watch my shows and just relax every muscle in my body. But for the most part, like I got to try to get to that level. It's like I want to come home at the end of the day and drink a beer. I don't want to get buzzed up and drunk. I just want to have a beer because I enjoy it. It helps relax a little bit. There's no difference.
Right.
Except I might be doing a little minor liver damage, and I might be doing a little bit of minor lung damage just from the smoke. But it's probably much better than this shit at this point. My little fucking vape pen.
I've seen articles about people getting sick from different weird lung diseases from like vapes and stuff like that. Oh, so this article about the way they're thinking about changing the cannabis, right? It's still worth reading, but they talked about a couple of different things, and one of them was releasing more licenses. Yeah. Right? But they were also talking about releasing more licenses to
minority.
I don't remember exactly what the phrase was that they used, but it was not like at-risk communities, but like something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it was women, veterans, minority, like racial minorities, like those are the people that are going to be focused primarily on it, and they're going to have access to grants to be able to buy equipment for these
to get going and stuff.
So the same deal with like the other shit we were talking about with like sports and whatnot. Like I don't think it's a bad idea at all to let people to release more licenses for people to do shit. I don't understand the focus on everyone. And I'm not like white people are being targeted, but like I don't understand the focus on everyone but white males. Like everyone but white males is going to have increased access to this new set of whatevers, of licenses. I think that's weird. Like, I think that's very strange.
And I think and I think this is weird, right? Because I have mixed feelings on this, because really I think it's one of those we have to kind of wait and see how it works out.
Right.
But as far as like a small business goes, or just a business in general, right? There are current perks, similar perks and tax breaks and stuff like that. Say if you are a veteran-owned business. Yeah. Because I looked into this because we got a lot of vets in my office. And I was like, well, how many do we need to be classified as a veteran-owned business? Because we get certain tax deductions and benefits and stuff, right? So if that's the tact that they take, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I do, because it's a licensing thing and not just anybody can go out and start it, I get a little bothered by that, because there's not the total free market availability where you can just go out and start
saying?
one.
Yeah.
And so if it comes down to like, you know, if the veteran-owned businesses and the minority-owned businesses and the women-owned businesses, if they get first priority for licenses, I'm not really down with that.
Right.
Because I'm not really down with necessarily like the affirmative action stuff in general anyways.
Yeah.
Which I feel that's kind of just an offshoot of, you know. And so really it just, like I said, I think it comes down to how that implementation is going to go.
Yeah.
But I do have that kind of red flag up there because of the fact that it's a licensed industry only.
I'd be way more down for... I appreciate that you put it that way because it certainly sounds better than me saying I'm not trying to defend white men, because that's not... My point is not why are white men not the focus, right? Mm-hmm. My point is why are they the only ones being excluded, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right.
The intersectional mindset.
Yeah, we're talking about licenses and people being able to start businesses. I don't understand... Why should we not have the same opportunity because we're white males to start a business like this? If we're the same as everyone else, we're just fucking white. Like, what's the difference? You know?
It's because regardless of whether you're trying to help a particular community out or not through, say, block grants or something like that, you are inadvertently discriminating against people that are not part of those selected categories.
Yeah.
And so there is discrimination involved there. But big caveat to that, discrimination is not always a bad thing.
Right.
You know, in this particular context, it sounds just from reading the article, which again, who knows how well this is written because it was local paper, right?
It was Kitsap Sun.
Yeah. Which I'm sure after reading enough Kitsap Sun articles, you question the editorial control.
Sometimes I'm like, why am I not working on the Kitsap Sun?
Exactly. It's like, guys, did you read? Are you sure you read this? Because like I can't even read it. It's that bad. But
like, I don't even know what this word is supposed to be.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll let the Kitsap Sun have it because it cannot be easy to be involved in the Kitsap Sun.
Yeah.
It's got to be hard to be a local quote unquote newspaper these days. It's got to be really hard. But that aside, I felt like the writing was lazy. It created a lot of gray areas.
Yeah.
It made me get a lot of questions going on. And whether that's due to the fact that nobody really knows, or it was just kind of a not so awesome reporting, I don't know. But I kind of, just knowing Kitsap County and in general, like it doesn't lean, in the state in general.
Well, they also
I lean more to the intersectional context versus not, you know. And
they also talked about like revitalizing the medicinal side of the cannabis industry, because that took a big hit when recreational came in. And so there used to be a thing that was called farmers markets, and people who grew cannabis privately that had their green cards could make products or grow things and bring them to these markets and sell them. So you didn't have to be a licensed dealer in a store to do it. You just had to make stuff, and it had to be safe, you know, and then you could take it there.
Yeah, so follow the regs, and just like a farmer's market.
So there's a lot of people, like I don't have my green card, right? But before it became recreationally legal, I intended on getting my green card for my knees. Like that's a lot of, I also like to get high, but a lot of the reason I use cannabis is for like,
I get wicked headaches.
You know what I'm saying? So
my back hurts.
So I certainly intended on getting my green card. At this point, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you know? There are people, because people have different tolerances. Like with edibles, I have to eat a whole bunch of edibles for me to like feel that, you know?
So 10 milligrams is a standard serving, right?
That's at the recreational store. Yeah.
What would be, how many milligrams would you ingest to try to get like good, solid, like
over 100.
I'm good?
Over 100 easily.
What, fucking like Joey Diaz level?
Like over easily. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me, actually. I don't know.
When Jordan and I got married, we split. I had 60 milligrams like right after I got married, and then didn't feel that. Like that's not, it's just not a thing, you know? When I used to take like Rick Simpson like every day, you know, and that's like, I don't know how much that breaks down to in accordance to
a metric fuck ton, probably.
But you know what I'm saying? So it took,
I was just thinking about taking
a half a gram of Rick Simpson for me to like feel really high, like really high. And then it was the 3/4 of a gram that I was like, I'm fucked up. Like I'm really fucked up. It's half a gram that I was like, yeah, no, I'm really high, like for sure. But I was still operating like I was still fine. I was still willing to take another one. So I was still like just fine. So Isaiah was telling us about when he had his green card and he would go to the market that you could get a brownie there, a dude that was putting a whole gram of wax in a brownie. So if you're like an insane strong user, you can get one of those and split it into quarters, and like that will do what you need it to do, But whereas the 10 milligram stuff that you buy at the store, you're going to spend $40 on fucking a bunch of chocolates that you're going to eat all of them for it to, to do the job, So.
Yeah, because I did eat a edible a few weeks ago. I don't remember what it was. Just a single 10 milligram cookie or something like that. And I don't like the taste. It's just something to me is just really off-putting. I don't dig it.
Yeah.
And so I usually just rifle those down as quick as fucking possible and then wash it down with something, clear my mouth out because I just don't like the taste.
Yeah.
But it used to be I could eat a 10 milligram and then an hour later, I'm good to hook. I'm sitting on that couch and I ain't going fucking nowhere except for bed, right? But now, that last time I took one and then like 2 hours later, I was like, this thing ever gonna fucking kick in?
Right.
Like I'm a little chilled. I'm chilling. But other than that, I was like, damn, I'm not gonna eat another one. Yeah. I'm just gonna go grab a joint real quick because I don't have the patience for that.
Right.
It's a totally different feeling because of that fact that it breaks down differently and the chemical passes through your liver.
Right.
Right. Oh, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's that chemical compound?
11-hydroxymetabolite.
Boom. There we go. And that can be much more psychoactive.
Yeah.
But it provides you, to me,
it's a different type of
relief. It's a totally different
type of high. It's different, depending on what you're using cannabis for, especially if you're a medicinal user. Mm-hmm. You're using it for more reasons than to just get high. So it just does different things.
And to me, like if I like the type of high that comes with an edible, for me anyways, personally, it's kind of more of I want to just do nothing but sit here and chill on video games or watch a TV show. And like, that's the particular type of thing. And then every show or movie or whatever I'm doing is just extra awesome, but I can't be physical.
Yeah.
For me anyways. And so like, but if I don't get that same type of feeling, if I just smoke a joint
right.
or something like that, if I put a bunch of keef in there, that's another story. Cause that gets fun on a whole nother level real quick.
Yeah.
But
so that was part of the thing they talked about bringing back was the markets, which I think would be a really great thing for them to do just for medical patients. And they were also talking about opening up for people to do deliveries, especially for medicinal stuff, which I've seen there's a couple of rec stores that are testing out delivery, which I think is going to make stupid money. Because speaking of someone who used to buy weed on the streets, that was always the biggest deal. You're like, fuck. I have to go and get it. I got to go to his house, or I got to go and meet up with him somewhere in a parking lot or at a fucking park somewhere. Or, you know what I'm saying? I got to go and meet him somewhere to go and buy this pot.
It was like, my store is 2 minutes away from the road.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I really feel like going today.
You know what I'm saying?
I might just smoke the last of this stuff and just go pick some more up tomorrow.
Like if you had a good weed dealer that like, that's all he did was deal weed. Like he probably would come to your house, you know? And
it's a good business model. We'll say that much.
I used to sell pot, we were like friends with the dude that we bought weed from, and rest in peace, that guy's dead now. But he would like go and pick up and then would come to our house, and he had his green card so he could have 1.5 pounds at a time. Like that's how much cannabis you could have on you at one time. So he would go and he would pick up 1.5 pounds and then would come to our house and would separate it into, different jars and like whatever he was going to do with it. And then we would pick up from him. And so, like when you're cool with that guy, like
get that first round pick.
Yeah.
Look at that.
He'll use you as like a home base sometimes. I'll stop by. I got to fucking do this and this and blah blah blah. And sometimes he'll come over. He'd always ask for juice, right? This guy's always asking for juice. Like, do you have any juice?
What kind of juice you got?
He'd be like, can I get you? You want like something to drink? He'd be like, do you have any juice? Like, what do you mean? Like Hawaiian punch? Like, no, I don't. Dude. No, I don't have any juice, man. But. Eventually, we just started buying juice to keep at the house for when he came over.
So, quick side note.
Yes.
Juice. Pog juice. You ever had Pog juice?
Yeah.
Pog juice is so good.
It is.
And I want some right now. But the only problem is the closest store I know that stocks it is the Red Apple in Paulsbo.
Safeway in Paulsbo has it too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, too many people.
The Safeway in Paulsbo?
Yeah, I don't need to go there. It's the reason I live in the North End.
You're old man.
I wanted, since we're just on the general topic of cannabis real quick, do you ever listen to the Meat Eater podcast at all?
Yeah, when I get extra time, I'll listen to Meat Eater. I like it.
And he did an episode with a guy named John Norris, which then actually, I think it was last week or maybe even earlier this week, he came on Joe Rogan too.
Rogan, yeah.
He's the game warden that got involved, and he created essentially like these tactical units and stuff for all these illegal cartel grow ops out in public lands.
Really?
And this
like
is what
in the woods and shit?
Because this is what I was thinking about, talking to you about earlier when I totally forgot. But he was talking about all these, when you were talking about cannabis laced with shit, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things they found in all these cartel grow ops is that they use this really highly toxic like pesticide.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not necessarily pesticide. It's just, it kills fucking everything. And so they put that stuff on the plants. Doesn't hurt the plants, but anything that gets close to it is like super fucked up.
Yeah.
And so part of these guys' thing, when they go in and they bust up these cartel operations and stuff, like they have to dispose of all this stuff because it's tainted, and this stuff is going out into the market, and the majority of it is like going to places back east where recreational marijuana isn't
not
legal.
Yeah.
And I hate myself because I just said marijuana, because we need to get away from that fucking term because it doesn't actually exist. But
excuse me.
The simple aspect of having certified growers, and everybody that's in this industry for the most part, they're all like super granola crunchy people.
Yeah.
Who like don't believe in pesticides and shit like that. There's a few places that do, but for the most part,
we use limited pesticides. This particular cannabis I have in front of me is pesticide free. Mm-hmm. They were voted. It is Cedar Creek Cannabis was voted the best grower 2016 and 2017, the best of Clark County, which is a county in Washington, obviously. But yeah, so this particular cannabis is pesticide free, which most of them, it's not like most of them have like 10 different things sprayed on them. If there is pesticides used, it's like one or two. Like it's a pretty limited, and most of them are fairly natural pesticides.
So this is some super cheap ass weed right here. This is super cheap shake.
It's a shake, right?
And it has
shake is loose. It's loose cannabis, not like bud.
Ready
just
to
for
go.
people who don't know.
It's like all the, think of like hot dogs. Like this is the hot dog of the cannabis world. Right? It's all the shit that like we can't sell this.
Buy
we'll
an
just mix
Oscar
it all
Mayer
up.
hot dog, so
yes.
I know it's legit.
There you go.
That's how I buy an Oscar Mayer. Yeah,
but like this place, they say pesticides used. It's rosemary oil and citric acid.
So there you go.
It's an all natural type of thing, and so we don't have a problem with this. But the longer it stays illegal, the bigger the market is for these cartels to come in and have these grow ops where they siphon off,
we get so much
water and shit, and then they
so much money from this.
Yeah, it's stupid how much money we make from this.
The taxes are, and it's not, again, speaking as someone. It's funny. This is the topic we started with, but
right.
Again, speaking as someone who bought weed before it was legal, there is not. It doesn't have to be a huge price difference in what you paid before and what you pay now. In some cases, I'm buying stuff for cheaper in the store than I bought it for on the street, which is, pretty weird,
And you can follow, the exact source of this thing. The company that makes it. They have a website. You can check all their shit out.
They'll come to the store. They come in and have like vendor days and stuff. One of the dude I used to buy like mass pot from is in our league. And he has a regular job now because he can't support himself selling pot anymore. Like it's not a lucrative job anymore to be doing that,
Yep.
Like this guy now has a regular job. So if it doesn't speak truth to power that
does he
this
sell
is the way to,
does he sell insurance?
No.
Okay. Very well.
No, he does not.
That's good, because I was going to say, you went from an honest business to an unhonest business.
Ironically enough, he works for the government.
Amen.
So there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love how that was a naturally occurring topic of the day.
Yeah.
So we're going to hit on everything from cannabis to foreign policy. Everything. What do you want to hit next? Anything in particular?
Well, we can start with some generals about some different topics about the different candidates if you want. You want to go over the list because the list has been, for Democratic candidates, has been whittled down to 10 for people that they had to receive 2% in 4 different national polls, and then like 400 donations in like X amount of states, like individual donors. So there's a bunch of people that dropped out. Jay Ainsley dropped out. Have you ever, let me ask you this before we start this. Have you ever heard of a podcast called The Last Podcast on the Left?
No.
So it's like a horror murder type of podcast that like it's 3 dudes that sit around and very deeply research these different crimes and like big cases, little cases, and then talk about them, right? And so I started listening to that. It was recommended to me by young Dan, the new Dan who works with me. He recommended it to me because we'll share podcasts back and forth. And so I was listening to it, and then one of those dudes hosts a podcast that's called Abraham Lincoln's Top Hat. Right?
Okay.
Abe Lincoln's Top Hat. And it's a political podcast, and in the ad, he's like, I'm, fact driven, like blah, blah, blah. And when I heard that, I was like, fuck. Like, I was like, this is the first person I've heard that, like, sounds like they might be a competing idea with what we're doing. So I went on there, and I started to listen to it. And it's not
even.
Good's not as advertised, right? Like, that this dude himself is, like, fairly objective, but you can tell that there's like an obvious ideological tilt to it, and certainly in the other people on the show, the other dude that was on there, and then in this guy in particular. And he said something. This was an episode right after Jay Ainsley dropped out of the race, and he was like, Jay Ainsley's gone, and he's going to go and run for Senate again in Washington, or he's going to go be governor again in Washington. And, maybe if we're lucky, then he'll get the spot as the EPA chief in whatever Democrat wins office, if they win office, right? So I was like, hold the fucking phone, right? I found this dude on Twitter, and I was like, hey, so I'm listening to your latest episode of Abe Lincoln's Top Hat. You're talking about Jay Ainsley. I live in Washington. Do you know what else Jay Ainsley is really good at? Lying about raising taxes, also using taxpayer money for his campaign in the ways of security, with no plans to reimburse taxpayers for what he's using. Now he's going to come back and run again. P.S. Hydropower is not a green energy in Washington state. Nothing. I don't mind like a big, there's nothing to say that he even saw it.
Sprinkle.
But those are just tiny, tiny things that are like easy articles to find. The one about that I'm talking about his security was an article either from the Kitsap Sun or the Seattle Times about how much money he was spending in security in the times that he is in Washington state, because now he's running for president, right? Not in usual security, right? So he used to just have like 4 officers with him, like I think maybe 1 lieutenant or something. And now he's got like 8 officers and 2 lieutenants. And those may not be the numbers, but it's like almost doubled in the amount of people he has with him. And now they're all staying places, and he's paying them overtime and like all this shit. All this taxpayer money that's just being spent because they're Washington state troopers being spent. No plans to reimburse the taxpayers at all. He hasn't said shit about it. Where John Hickenlooper in Colorado, it's like, oh, I'm going to give everyone the money back that I used for security. Like everything I used for taxpayer money for campaign, I'm paying it all back. Like, don't get me wrong. Even if I win, dropped out, paying it all back. Nothing from Jay Ainsley. Not a fucking word about all the money, about doubling his security expenses at the cost of the taxpayer. Not a single word about any intent on paying it back.
I'd say surprise, surprise, but
like,
this is Jay
and this
Ainsley
dude who lives in
about.
New York is like, Jay Ainsley's so fucking rad. Like, I'm really glad he was there and was getting the word out about fucking climate change, and like, he's so sick. I'm like, dude, this guy's a shill. Like, Jay Ainsley's a shill, and you're just like, he's great. And I really wish that he is going to be the EPA chief, I'm like, fuck.
Well, yeah, we better start taking all those dams down.
So I felt like a little bit safe.
Have you ever been to the Grand Coulee Dam, by the way?
Yeah, several times. Grand Coulee Dam is rad, bro.
It's I drove through there.
It's incredible.
It's fucking wild.
They do like fireworks and light shows and stuff on the Grand Coulee Dam. We were there one year where fireworks fell over the Grand Coulee Dam, exploded off of the water coming off. Oh, it was so sick.
Oh, that's cool.
It was super sick. So we used to go and do that all the time. We used to go camping in Eastern Washington all the time. We used to go all over the place. So yeah, they'll do light shows and stuff on the water of the Grand Coulee Dam.
I can see why now.
Super cool. Yeah.
I'd never been there before.
It's enormous too.
I've been so close so many times because it's right next to Chelan.
Yeah.
And I've been to Chelan so many fucking times I can't even count. And I'm like, how have I never fucking been here?
It's awesome.
So, yeah, I got to take Carolina there because she would love that place.
It's a total, like, I don't know, just to see things like that, like buildings don't always like amaze me, but to see stuff like that,
it's so functional.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
This is fucking cool, right? Dude. Like it's such a basic thing. This shit is
working right now,
and you can like take tours inside of it and stuff.
Yeah. They got a cool museum and stuff there.
It's really cool.
You could see probably half the museum because it's all like big ass windows and shit as you drive by it. I'm like, oh, dude, there's some cool shit there.
It's awesome. Grand Coulee Dam is super rad. It's totally worth going and seeing a laser show there and camping somewhere nearby. Like it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and it's not a green energy.
What I'm saying, yeah. So that's it wasn't a terrible podcast. I only listened to one episode. I'm not totally shitting on it, but there was definitely. Dude obviously doesn't like Donald Trump, obviously a Democrat. Like these things were just very evident throughout listening to one episode,
Yeah.
Whereas I talked a little bit in my blog post where the day that I did meet Jordan and Caleb, right? And when I was up there, I was up on the porch and I was talking to John and Caleb, and Jordan was down by like our driveway and she was talking to
Jordan.
Yes, to Jordan and Olivia. I was trying to remember my name.
Okay.
And John asked me, he was like, hey, so where do you sit at on the political spectrum? Because I was talking to Olivia about it and we were just trying to decide like where you were sitting at. And I was like,
I kind of like hang out, right?
I was like, I'm pretty fairly in the middle. Like, I don't know that like I would, I don't think I subscribe to one particular thing. And he said, and that's what we had to end on, is because we couldn't pick one side we thought you were on,
The labels of old do not do justice to the nuances of today.
I've said before that if I were to run for office, I would probably have to run as a Republican. But after I was listening to Derek Kilmer, I was like, I could probably pull off running as a Democrat and just be super fucking moderate, They like, it would be, people would question, like me running as a Democrat, but I could probably pull it off.
You'd have probably a better shot than most of the.
So I told them that I agreed. I was like, I am pretty square in the middle, and I think that like is really good, that we've talked about it privately, that when we first met, I leaned very much left and you leaned very much right, and we, like not a month ago, you said to me, I think that I might lean a little bit more left now than I do right. And I said, that's funny because I think that I might lean a little bit more right than I do left now. We have come so far that we've tilted each other the exact opposite.
Right.
And it's not like, we're like at 45 the other way, but we're like, tilted just on the other side of the middle that we were when we began this,
But the nice thing is we are realistically, we're dead center in the middle of that silent majority,
right?
That think fucking whatever God you pray to, that silent majority is slowly becoming more vocal. Because I don't know about you, and I think this might be a good segue. So. Because we're going to talk about the 2020 candidates, right?
Yes.
But I haven't been more disillusioned than when I came back from being just gone for the weekend for like 3-4 days. No politics, no news, no nothing. Just me and the fucking outdoors, right? And just no room to think about anything else other than survival and, trying to fucking find and kill an animal.
How much you love your brother.
Yeah.
When was the last time you spent that much time uninterrupted one-on-one with your brother?
Probably since we used to live at home together when we were kids. Yeah, I think so. I
don't want to.
There was some tension.
I was going to say
there was some tension at some point
because you guys get along, but you also think very differently.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, and that's and the thing about, because what we were doing is we were hunting together, right? That's the thing that we do. And we did it very well. We played off of each other very well. He's got some knowledge in a lot of areas that I don't, and I have some knowledge in a lot of areas that he doesn't, and we make a great team going in. But man, after, 2 or 3 days of not sleeping, just being totally exhausted from fucking climbing mountains all day, driving hours and hours and hours, I was at fucking wit's end, especially because I was trying to quit nicotine that weekend, which was stupid and it was not happening. But I was it was a constant feeling of like desperate cravings, and then I'd get some, and then everything would chill the fuck out for a while. But then I was on razor's edge most of the time.
I would have been
Don't fuck
chewing
with
all
me.
weekend, bro.
And I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but he was taking care of himself in the realm of nicotine, and I was just nipping, and I should have, but either way, I don't even remember the point I was going to make.
You were spending so much time by yourself thinking about shit.
Oh, and then coming back.
Yes.
And just
to the shit show of politics.
And then I just jump into my usual daily consumption of, now thanks to you, it's The Economist.
It's good, podcast. Right? It's
really fucking good.
It's a good podcast.
It's scary how good The Economist is on their politics reporting. And of course, The Daily, which
I'm even falling off The Daily now.
It's because The Daily's getting rough, man.
And the ads really kill me. The 3 ads or the 2.5 minute long ads in the middle of the episode.
When the episode length really hasn't changed that much.
Yes.
So like the content is just getting shorter and they're making just filling it with ads. But NPR, The Daily, of course, and then that ABC, Start Here.
That was really good too.
And then just even trying to listen to the Shapiro and stuff coming back, and like, you all motherfuckers, because you did your blog post about civility, essentially, and
divisiveness in politics.
And it is, you disappear for a little while, and you kind of forget, because we're in it 24/7.
Yeah.
Right? And it just becomes a normal part of life, and usually we just shake it off as whatever it is, what it is.
I think it's funny when people tell me they don't like to listen to it because it just frustrates them, and I'm like, I'm so far past even the realm of anger that it's just, I just laugh. I hear someone say some shit that pissed me off. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm like, that's stupid.
Because you can just instantly tell when you know that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts.
Did you listen to, not just say yes or no and then you can go back, did you listen to the interview of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Pod Save America?
No.
Oh, you got to do it.
I can't wait.
You have to do it. Oh, it's so bad.
See, that was
so fucking bad.
And that was the thing. Like, I wanted to get into so many more. But this week, my number one podcast was Joe Rogan and Meat Eater. Just because I got to wade back into this pool real slow.
It's a good
because
escape,
the water is not fine. It is frigid fucking cold, and you'll do okay up to about your mid thigh. But once that shit gets close to the balls, you either got to commit, jump right in the pool, or you got to wait for a minute.
I listened to 2 different murder podcasts this week for a similar reason.
There you go.
I'm like, there were 6 or 7 episodes about an hour apiece, and I'm like, I need a break, like 2
And
days
is it just me, or is it getting exponentially worse almost every single fucking day?
It's almost like in most realms, there's not even an attempt to try and like even veil the the partisanship.
Yeah.
Not even like an attempt anymore.
Not even.
It's just like, listen,
it's
this
almost
is
defending,
just where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah. This is defending us, calling what we do journalism as us reporting partisan politics the way we want.
It's weird.
And it's really upsetting.
Yeah.
But anyways, 2020 candidates. I feel like we need to knock this stuff out because otherwise I'm going to keep talking. So yeah, we did have some dropouts, right? We already mentioned Jay Inslee is out of the race.
Thank
John
God.
Hickenlooper, former governor of Colorado, is out of the race. I think we already talked about Eric Swalwell getting out about a month or so ago. And then
Gillibrand.
The latest and greatest, Kirsten Gillibrand.
Thank God.
And thank God Kirsten Gillibrand is out of the race because she... Out of all the polls last time taken, apparently, which we got to talk about polling later because that's a thing. But apparently in this last set of polls, she didn't get a single respondent that said that they supported Kirsten Gillibrand.
Oh.
So she's like 0 support level at this point.
Jesus.
But of the candidates that did make the single stage debate this time, we're not splitting it in 2. We have 10 candidates.
But I would think they would do 2 nights though. 2 nights with the same crew.
5 and 5?
No,
or 2 nights of the same?
Yeah, I think they'll have all 10 2 nights.
I hope so.
It's ABC this time around.
Good. The ABC was so much better the first time.
Network got 2 nights. I think ABC is going to squeeze 2 nights out and probably just ask different people more questions each night.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah, so who's going to be on the stage for these next debates?
We got former Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Cory Booker, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, the former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Julian Castro, Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Amy Klobuchar. I'm just going to call him Robert Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis O'Rourke, who does not. He is not currently employed.
Used to be a representative.
State representative of Texas.
Oh, he wasn't even a federal representative.
No, man.
Oh.
No, he's never stepped foot in the state or in the Fed House.
Oh, Beto.
And then Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and my number one so far, my boy Andrew Yang, making moves, getting into the next debates. He met the threshold. Unfortunately, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, Tom Sawyer, and beloved Marianne Williamson, although they met the donor threshold, they did not meet the poll threshold.
And Tulsi Gabbard
has been deployed on active fucking duty for 2 weeks, by the way, which heavily hampered. Yeah, which hampered. Shit. And this is the 1 month where Congress is not in session and everybody hits the campaign trail hard.
She can be deployed. Yeah.
And she cannot do that. And she cannot campaign. Legally, she cannot campaign while on active duty service. Right. Cannot do that. So
the one thing, so that makes a little more sense because the one thing I was going to hit her on was when she did talk about this, she said the polling wasn't fair, which I don't know how it's not fair when they ask the same group of people, and if no one says your name, then you're not going to win. But I can see how if you're unable to campaign because you're
tough
deployed on active duty, then you're gonna. But
and
the polls themselves are not unfair.
No, and I don't, because she's been making a lot of noise about this.
Yeah,
and I'm not on board with this. I'm sorry, Representative Gabbard. I really like you from everything I've heard on all your different podcast appearances that you've made. She's doing everything right.
Yeah,
she's making a lot of the right noises. I don't agree with her on a lot of stuff, but I think she's a better candidate than most of the other 10 candidates up there.
Yeah.
But
what's the name of the woman in the South who thinks that she's supposed to be mayor or governor?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You know who I'm talking about?
Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, but that's what it reminds me of.
It does. It seems petty.
Yeah.
And because the important thing to remember here is just because they're not on the debate stage next week doesn't mean they're out of the race.
Yeah,
she can still be out there campaigning hard every day.
Yeah.
From now on until the next one. Yeah, and she totally could. So definitely all those people, Marianne Williamson, she should definitely not give up because I want her to be around till the primary time.
Dude,
she's just icing on the cake, man. She's the only thing that makes the stuff palatable.
She's interesting to listen to. I told you last time, she has got to be a fucking great writer.
Because she's a cult leader, man.
Some of the stuff that she has said, I'm like, that's beautifully written. Like that's, right? And even if it's not written, if she's spitting that off the top of her head, that's awesome. I can't imagine what her writing is like. If she's taking time, dude, that's gold.
Yep.
That's like, regardless of whether or not you believe what she's saying, it's beautiful. She's saying beautiful words,
Yeah, she knows how to string
really
together.
Well. I'm impressed. I'm telling you, just at the rhetorical skill, I think is great in Marianne Williamson.
Definitely. She knows how to speak to people to get them activated.
Become a Republican and start debating people.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
She would be a fucking star. She would be a star.
So the bigger, broader topic to this, I mean, there's a lot of, every one of these people has kind of, for the most part, has their own little stories attached to them. Joe Biden has been out there like the gaffe factory that it is, just throwing out, just giving people one-liners to hit him on big time.
Do you want to take it by topic then?
Well, I mean, you actually have specific topics. I have more of like a general afterwards kind of polling, and then just generally, I feel like on the other side of the aisle, the Republican Party, because there has been a primary challenger that has appeared, and I kind of want to talk about the fate of the Republican Party and stuff a little later.
Well, so let's talk about guns real quick in regards to the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Right? Because several of these people, they've all been asked about guns, especially if you've listened to the NPR podcast, like the On the Trail, whatever's with the different candidates. Have you listened to those?
Yeah, most of them, I think. Yeah. I think I've hit all of them.
Because they did a couple this week. They did one with Beto, and they did one with Andrew Yang.
I did not. I haven't heard those.
Yeah. Those ones are good. So they got asked about guns. And I was troubled. Andrew Yang said that he did think that guns were the problem when he got asked about that. And so
Joe Walsh.
Yeah. But we talked about that kind of last time we were together and recorded that. At this point, I don't think that either one of the sides of that argument of the guns or the people. Neither of those sides are correct in this argument, right? Yeah. So they've all come out with kind of different plans of different, varying degrees of extremity. And
I feel like I want to grab my rifle right now and just hold on to it while we talk about guns.
So like Elizabeth Warren, her gun plan talks about raising taxes on gun manufacturers from 11% to 50%, which I don't know how many of the people listening to this have ever purchased a gun, but we've talked about it before. I just purchased this pistol not too long ago. You just bought a rifle a couple weeks ago. It's not cheap, right?
No.
To buy a gun is not cheap. It's not something you just do, right? Generally, and I'm sure there are lots of people who can't. There are definitely lots of people who can't just go and buy a gun if that's what they want to do. Most people are not just going and buying a gun because they don't have an extra $600 or $700 laying around for a pistol, or $1,500 laying around for like a nice rifle, or whatever the fuck.
Oh yeah.
And so, that's not. I'm not quoting the price of Colin's rifle. That's just.
I will tell you exactly how much that thing costs with the basic accessories that I would require to hunt on to my ethical standards.
Yeah.
And we'll just say that the rifle is generally the cheapest piece of equipment you buy.
Yeah.
And it is not cheap itself.
Yeah.
That single rifle over there was damn near $1,000.
Yeah.
And it's, mind you, I chose to buy a more top-end
high-quality rifle, right.
That's very, very well... It's very high quality manufacturing,
right?
And all this great long history of this company and all this stuff. It's got
Same deal with my pistol.
Yeah, you could see how it's kind of like it's got bored out on the sides to help cooling and all this stuff. But compared to that, like the optics that I have on there are actually they're about half the price of the rifle.
Yeah, the scope,
and it is the rifle scope, but that is like a bottom of the barrel. Good quality brand, lifetime warranty, which is sweet.
Yeah.
But ideally, if I was going to buy my dream scope for that rifle, it would cost me twice as much as the rifle costs.
I was just going to say it's not hard to spend. No. I was looking at just not to like spin off into like gun talk, but I was just looking at just lights. And it's a light is like $150, $100.
Yep.
For like a decent light that just goes on the end of my pistol. Like that's.
A buddy of mine just bought one that has a sensor in the pistol grip. It's got a little pad, a pressure sensor, so that as soon as you grab it and you put pressure on the actual stock itself, the light turns on, which is dope as fuck. But it's also like $500 fucking dollars.
Right. Yeah.
The same price almost of the handgun.
Right. They're not cheap at all.
No.
So I thought that struck me as a gun owner. And I own a 10mm pistol. So ammunition, even just for the range is upwards of $20. It's like $25, $28,
Must be nice.
Like that's for a box of 50 that, can go in 20 minutes. That's not very good,
Yeah, I can't shoot that much of mine.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's, that's unfortunate. And I can't imagine paying another 40%, higher than what I'm paying right now.
Insane.
Just because to deter people from using it in a mass shooting. When I own my firearm for self-protection, that seems ludicrous to me. You know what I'm saying? And we have people talking about, let's see, Joe Biden wants to bring back the assault weapons ban.
So that was his era as a senator.
Yeah. You can keep assault rifles you have, but no new sales, and then it would tackle high-capacity magazines. Because the assault weapons ban, right?
It's back in the 90s, if I remember right.
In 1994, which was the year I was born, right?
I believe Clinton administration.
Yes, absolutely was. Which I just watched a
the
really
year
great...
you were born. God damn it, Donovan.
Yeah. I just watched... This is fucking... That's nasty, bro.
That is 20 of those things, $40.
Really?
Yeah. And so when you're doing a rifle sight-in, like a scope sight-in, like I have to do because I ate shit on the side of a cliff the other day, I got to go re-sight in my rifle. That is... Look at that fucking powder load, though.
Yeah.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
There's 10 mils, man. They pack a punch.
Bear certified, bro.
Yeah.
Bear certified.
That's why I brought a 40 cal when I went up hunting.
Yeah.
But Yeah, the assault rifle ban back Clinton administration,
Yes.
Joe Biden era.
So the assault weapons ban did obviously outlaw the sale of what was classified as assault weapons, but dealt largely with the different components that go onto those weapons, right? And one of the things was high capacity magazines, and that's something that several people have talked about. And I thought that, because the last time I was here, I'm pretty sure I talked about that, and I was like, it's something people should be, like on for whatever. Then I did a little more research into high capacity magazines, right? Because I started looking more into the federal assault weapons ban. So my question with 15, right?
Yep.
So my question, one of the things that I was going to ask Daryl Kilmer, I asked the Russia question instead, was about high capacity magazines, right? In the federal assault weapons ban, a high capacity magazine was anything. It goes several different things. That's like a belt, a box, whatever, a magazine that holds 10 or more rounds.
Yeah.
Right. This magazine that came with my pistol, I did not purchase it aftermarket. 3 of them came with my pistol, hold 15 rounds. And I'm not like 15 is so many. This is what came with my pistol. That's part of the reason I purchased this gun, right?
Yep.
Is that it holds 15 rounds. I'm not talking about an aftermarket fucking drum magazine that goes into my pistol for me to carry it around or do whatever I'm going to do with it. I'm talking about the magazine that comes standard with this, that it's designed for, that has been deemed by one of the best pistol manufacturers in the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, definitely.
In the list of all, I'm not saying the best, one of the best, right?
That's like a gun owner's like debate, but definitely top 5 manufacturers, right. I think, in the world.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not open up a debate of this is the only pistol I've ever owned personally. So
Glock is a very controversial brand in the gun ownership field, just because they're so different than everything else.
Yeah.
But they're so fucking user-friendly. They have a good capacity magazine that comes stock. I mean, it is one of the best.
Manufactured excellent.
Yes.
They are machined
top quality.
The customer service, as far as if anything goes wrong with your pistol, is
some of the best in the world rated.
Yep. So that's what I'm saying.
A lot better than Comcast.
The tagline for Glock is perfection. You know what I'm saying? So it's an excellent made pistol, right? So it has been deemed by the person who designed this that 15 is the appropriate amount of ammunition to hold in this magazine that comes standard, right?
If I get charged by a grizzly, you better believe I'm going to want all 15 of those rounds.
So it concerns me that, and to be clear, this is one of the reasons I didn't ask Derek Kilmer this question, was because it was just a wordier question. And if I fucked up the one from Russia, I definitely would have messed up this one. So I understand in the assault weapons ban, it was implemented at a time where gun manufacturers had what is described here as ample time to overproduce magazines that they could sell them throughout the 10 years of the assault weapons ban, right? I don't want it to be up to the manufacturer to make enough to get through that 10 years. Because what if you've gone through halfway through the 10 years, right? And you run out. So you now have to do at least some. I mean, if you're going to put 10 rounds in this magazine, it's probably going to be a single stack instead of a double stack.
Yep.
That's going to be a completely different looking pistol.
Oh, yeah.
Completely different. You're going to have to redesign this pistol just to sell it. Just to sell it in accordance with this law, right? Because you weren't able to manufacture enough magazines to sell through this 10 years. I don't want it to be up to a gun manufacturer in another country to make enough magazines to sell in America.
Where's Glock out of?
This gun was made in Austria.
Right?
It says Austria on the side. And I don't, when you, this is just, I assume where it's made, right? But when you go to the website, you got to pick what country you're in. So I don't want it to be up to a gun manufacturer, possibly. I'm sure they have factories in America, maybe they don't. I don't know. I don't want it to be up to the manufacturer, even if they are in America, to make enough, overproduce enough magazines to have to make it through this 10-year period, or else have to redesign a pistol so that they can sell it within accordance, And I don't want that to be the case. So I would like for there to be some type of differentiation designation in this so that people who are making pistols don't have to completely change the design of their pistol to sell it within the frame of this law.
When you think about it, a manufacturer line, like an actual manufacturing line that is presumably highly automated, you're talking a change required of the business owner, the company, of probably millions and millions of dollars to either completely fabricate and engineer from the ground up brand new manufacturing equipment, because that's why it's so expensive to get a manufacturing operation up and running.
Right.
Because you cannot reliably handcraft any firearm at a scale realistically. I mean, like at any scale other than just like a one at a time, mom and pop shop thing. You can't do that without some serious capital investment. You really cannot.
And I'm talking specifically about pistols, right? Because in most cases, and again, I'm going to say in most cases, in the world of ARs, when you're talking about lower capacity magazines, it really just means a shorter magazine, right?
Yeah.
It's not a complete redesign of the gun. It's a shorter magazine.
Yep.
In the case of this particular pistol and many other pistols like it, to take 5 rounds out of it could stand to, I mean, I say that because the magazine that slides in here, if you don't know about guns, right? The magazine that slides in here stops at the end of the gun. To make it any shorter is not an option. I mean, I guess you could have like just a lighter spring in there or a heavier spring in there, but you
could probably makeshift some kind of like stop
guns,
mechanism,
and that's
or
just
something.
This one, right? But if you're talking about like a different gun that has 17 or 19 rounds in it, you're talking about a redesign of the gun. Right?
Definitely.
You're not talking about just a difference. And I don't think that should be the case. You know, I don't think it should be up to the manufacturer. And again, I'm not talking about all these drum magazines, this aftermarket stuff. I'm talking about the stock magazine that comes in this, that someone is buying for their protection, whether it be that I'm carrying it around with me all the time or Colin's going to take it into the woods with him so he doesn't get eaten by a bear. That makes sense. That's reasonable. This is, you know what I'm saying? Everyone's talking about common sense gun laws. You're talking about something that is not common sense. To cause a manufacturer to redesign a pistol completely so as to fit in accordance with this law, that's not correct. That's not common sense.
And I'll play devil's advocate for a second and just say, okay, you can keep the gun size the same, everything the same. The only thing that really needs to change is the engineering of the magazine, right?
Yeah.
So, but still, that requires a massive engineering change. And this stuff is not handmade. It's not easy to do. You have to completely redesign an entire section of the manufacturing.
Right.
And that is not a cheap thing to do, which is only going to do one thing, and that's bump up the price massively. And it's not fair to the consumer, for one. And it's definitely not fair to the business, because now all of a sudden they built a business model based off of existing laws and regulations at the time.
Yeah.
And now you're just going to change them willy-nilly. Well, it's not fair to that company to now have to shell out of their own pockets X amount of millions of dollars to change the way they manufacture these things, most likely temporarily, and at the consumer's expense.
Right.
Which I think, depending on how you want to read into that might be kind of a perverse incentive to just have less people buy guns. It would kind of make sense, but that's not necessarily fair. That's kind of reaching and assuming. But
so that's one of the things that I obviously had a big problem with. It was just the way that it was written. At least when you're talking about the 1994 assault weapons ban, that concerns me, right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem I have when you're talking about bringing something that was the exact same as 1994.
Well, thank God there'll be hours and hours and hours of rigorous debate after it comes time to pass another assault weapons ban. That was sarcasm, if you couldn't tell.
There are several people, Cory Booker, Beto O'Rourke, and Mayor Pete, that are in favor of a gun license, a federal gun license. Which
sounds good.
I don't think that I am like wholly opposed to, you know. I don't. The libertarian slice of my pie is like, well, I don't want to be registering for more databases, you know.
Yeah.
But I, on the whole, am not opposed. If you're talking about federal gun legislation, I'm not opposed to, like, on the whole, of like, at least right now. I obviously am going to do more research about the different independent factors of these pieces of legislation as they come out.
Yeah.
But
and unfortunately, that's what you have to do,
right?
Because there's so many good talking points around this stuff, like high capacity magazine, universal background checks.
Right. Which is
those all sound good.
Right.
But you need to dig into the nitty gritty and find out, what does that really mean when it comes time to write the legislation? Does that mean that by the next time I go in and buy like a small game rifle, if I'm going to go buy a little 22, I don't want to have to, I don't think I need to get licensed for a rimfire rifle like that has a magazine capacity of probably like 3+1 or 5+1. It's going to be under 10. But then now I'm on a database somewhere that I'm not comfortable with the government knowing exactly where I'm at just because I bought a firearm. It seems...
And I think that that's fair. I think that's super fair, especially for people who intend to, like, who try to live off the grid, and they're coming into town to buy a rifle because they live in the woods and they need it for where they live. Like, if your intent is to stay off the grid, and your intent is not like some weird backwoods shit where you're planning, like some Unabomber shit, right? But you're just truly trying to live in the woods by yourself, subsistence living. Like, I can understand why you wouldn't want to be on more databases. You wouldn't want to be registered in more places.
Well, other than the fact that just generally, I don't like it when the government tracks their people like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a little bit more of my libertarian values, like poking out every now and again.
Yeah.
But it's just, the government does not exist to track its citizens like that. And it just seems very uncomfortable to me to have to do that. I think, that's not to say that a background check should not be conducted at the purchase of every single firearm.
Yeah.
I'm 100% okay with that. And I think our current system works okay for that too.
Right.
But I don't want to add some extra legislation in there that starts putting people on lists and databases and
I'll link
that. It's not comfortable.
We're talking about guns right now because this has been the big topic of just the different podcasts that we're listening to. This has been like a big focus. Obviously, after the El Paso shooting and different things that happened, this has just been a focus. So I will link back to the different episodes where we talked about healthcare and things like that so that people don't think that we're just so focused on guns.
Yeah. So it's one of these things where you kind of almost have to have one topic for the candidates kind of in general, like per episode.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we could sit, me and you could do it because we love to do this stuff. We'd sit here for 12 hours and break them all down one by one. We'd have to have a couple pee breaks, I'm sure.
And I think one of the last things I have, Andrew Yang talked about, like I said, he said that he did think that the guns were the problem, right? Mm-hmm. Which I don't think is necessarily the case. And I didn't express this very clearly the last time, but I think what I was trying to get out is I was really frustrated, right? So in a world where, like, even if you're saying that the guns are the problem, right? Are you really talking about going around to everyone's house and taking the guns that they have out of their hands?
Yeah.
Because that's not going to work. That's not going to be the way that this happens peacefully and everyone's okay with it, right?
Yep.
So let's say that the people are the problem, right? You don't have any way to know that if people are keeping to themselves, right? And there's all these people that haven't had red flags, that have had red flags, right? What they're calling red flags, but there are all these people that haven't. There's no way to stop those people. If they're keeping to themselves, if they're going there buying guns legally, like so many of these people did, right? 'Cause we're not so many of these kids that have done these mass shootings have went and bought their guns legally. The kid at the garlic shooting went to Las Vegas or Nevada, purchased it legally, went back home, right? Or like, you don't have any way to affect that if there's nothing happened before. We know in the case of Parkland, that kid had talked about it, that he should not have had access to guns.
Yeah.
But there are other people, like I said, like the kid at the garlic shooting. There's nothing you can do about that. He legally purchased a firearm when no one had any reason to stop him from doing so. There's nothing you can do about that, know? So, and I don't remember, maybe that's not a great example because I don't remember which one of these kids it was that said, like, their girlfriends and friends that said they were obsessed with mass shootings. I think that was the El Paso kid, but either way.
I think that was the Dayton kid.
There you go. Yeah. So my real point is, in a world where there is no red flags, the people being the problem and having all of these laws to stop them, the red flag laws, the extra background checks, all this shit, if they're fucked up in the head and they're willing to wait a month to get their gun and they have never been to therapy, they don't have any family to report them, they don't have any friends, they don't put weird shit on the internet, they just keep to themselves and stew and stew and stew, what does that solve? Because that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about people that, even if they're not posting on the internet, they're going and they're being radicalized by things they're seeing on 4chan, 8chan, whatever, right? Even if they're not posting, they're just reading it. So there's no way to, unless you're going to monitor people's internet access and you're going to tell me that I can't read that because it might radicalize me.
And that's a whole nother level
what are
of
we really talking about here?
Yeah.
Like so these arguments are no longer valid. Either of these things are no longer valid and should not even be part of anyone's discussion about any type of gun debate, whether it's the guns or the people. Irrelevant.
And unfortunately,
it is absolutely irrelevant.
It's really simple to be able to like try to look past that. But what we're talking about here is really you're restricting people's constitutional rights.
Right.
In the
law-abiding citizens in the most part.
Yeah, in an attempt to curb violence of some kind, right? But much like this is why I have a lot of problems with things like the Patriot Act. These types of things that give governments extra control and involvement in other people's lives. It's a very, I don't want to say the old slippery slope thing, but I mean, you got to understand that when you cede rights to the federal government, much like when a benefit is given by the federal government, it can't necessarily be like taken back.
Right.
It's the same thing.
We talked about that with gay marriage.
You cede your rights as a gun owner and a law-abiding Second Amendment following citizen. You can't take that away from people. The government cannot, by definition, remove people's rights.
Yeah.
The Constitution was built and designed to prohibit governments from removing your rights.
Right.
And things like the Patriot Act, and if, we decide that we're going to have some massive federal level gun control that bars people in some fashion from acquiring firearms, that is an attack on a constitutional right, whether you think it's morally just or not. And the problem there is the fact that we don't trust each other. Mm-hmm. We have a very sick society. One of the things I think Marianne Williams has got spot on, and Tulsi Gabbard has mirrored this a little bit, but the fact that our society as a whole is sick.
Yeah.
We have problems, and we could talk all day about what those problems are and why and what they stem from and all that, but putting a Band-Aid on a serious problem like the ones we have in our society now that make people become shooters, that's not going to change things. It's not going to change how this stuff is done unless you go to a fully authoritarian, government-run country that is not, that's dystopian enough just in thinking about it.
Right.
This is V for Vendetta. It's the authoritarian surveillance state.
Yeah.
There's no other way to do that. And unfortunately, we can't control everybody in America. We can't be all on the same page. I think that's relatively obvious considering the state of the country as it is now. And just because we know there's a problem with mass shooters, doesn't necessarily mean that the problem is the gun laws. That might be an aspect of it, but realistically, there's something wrong in our society now that is bringing people to the point where they feel like they need to commit a mass shooting.
Right.
This didn't exist years and years and years ago because I think we had a much more healthy society at the time. We weren't focused all the time on the shit show of the day that, whatever the media is going to bring up to the day or whatever, Trump's latest fucking tweets were or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know.
So I have two good things about
Let's
these
do
candidates.
it. I need some good news.
No. So for Elizabeth Warren,
we're dipping into nihilism here.
because we shit on Elizabeth Warren a lot. One of the things that I like about her is, and we'll talk about it again after you listen to these on the trail things, the NPR ones, because I think you should do that, and we'll talk about it again next week. She talked about when she was growing up, right? And this, true or not, whether or not the story is true, and it may be for the wrong reasons that I enjoyed it, right? But she talked about growing up and like her dad lost his job, and her mom had never had a job before, and she had to go out and get a job, and she supported the family, and like they almost lost their house and all this shit, right?
I don't need to hear that podcast. I've heard that same story 1,000 times from her already.
So it almost made me emotional because I just identify with that story, right?
I get it.
So like I said, whether or not, if for the right reasons or not, you know, I appreciated that, and I was like, so I fuck with you, right? Because she said that she was at an age where that happened and she realized it was tied with politics, right? That politics bared some relevance on the situation she existed in. And I was like, word. Because I remember waking up in a political sense and realizing that by, you know, some fault of my mom's and some fault not of my mom's, that she got caught up in housing crisis. That was a political deal that she was given a house that she had no fucking business being in by herself, you know, and they literally lived there, you know. They let us live there, and that's their own fault, you know, but also our own fault because we knew that, you know. Everyone who bought a house should have known that, but
it's one of those buyer beware. But motherfucker, you should have known this was a bad investment.
You know what I'm saying? So I identify with that, and I appreciate that that's where she comes from, or at least did at one point. You know, like I said, whether or not that's where she's still at, or that's just a story she tells. I appreciate that, and maybe for the wrong reasons, but I fuck with that. You know?
No, I get it.
And then Andrew
Patty Murray, our senator, has a very similar story, but it has to do with the Department of Education and stuff. Yeah. But, you know, go ahead. I don't want to continue.
No, you're good. And then Andrew Yang obviously gets asked about the freedom dividend all the time. Yeah. So you got asked, like, how do you answer to people who don't think that you can get this implemented? You know, that it's just like something you're running on and whatever. And he said, I appreciate the logic that he approached this with, right? Because he said, I know that I can get the freedom dividend passed because if I'm elected president, it's on the back of the freedom dividend. It's like, so there's a majority of America that agrees with what I'm doing. There's going to be at least, you know, all these Democrats that are on board with it because I'm now the president of the Democratic Party, you know? Yep. And then there's going to be X amount of Republicans that are on board for it too because Alaska's a Republican state and they're the only state that's had, you know, this freedom dividend UBI type deal. It was passed in a Republican government. He's like, this is not a bad deal for the Republicans and they're going to see that, you know? And we don't need 85%. He said, we need 51%. That's it. We only need 51% of Congress to be able to get this passed. And that's attainable. And I was like, fuck me, dude. That makes a lot of sense. Like, that is because if he wins, you know, there's enough people who've heard about that and they're like, give me the $1,000 that they are going to buy into it. And if you have over half of America getting into something that's such an economic change, you're going to have a really hard time not buying into it, you know? So
I think that's, dude, I think it pisses me off so much when I listen to commentary, because I love Commentary Magazine podcast, right? But Noah Rothman and all of those guys, John Ponhorn, everybody, they cast him off as this wild guy that's got this crazy idea about UBI.
Failed entrepreneur. Yeah. You know? And oh, sorry. Only his nonprofit made a fuckload of money and helped a bunch of people.
I say, John, how's that publication? Oh shit, was National Review that he started? How's that doing? Yeah. Sorry, bro. I know that's a cheap shot because they just went under, but you know, not every business is fucking successful, obviously. And I think Andrew Yang's freedom dividend it's kind of like UBI light. In my mind, right? Because it's not that much, but
it's maybe one of the best marketed fucking things I've ever heard of in my whole life. Yeah. The freedom dividend, Jesus Christ, dude!
The dude knows what he's doing.
When I explained it to Jordan the first time, she's like the one that said that to me. And Jordan has a very marketing mind, you know what I mean? You know, and she was like, "What?" She's like, "That's what he's calling it." She was like, "Who doesn't want that?" She's like, "We live in America, the land of the free." And she's like, "But you're telling me I can have more freedom?" She's like, who doesn't want more freedom? Like, what do you mean?
Exactly. Yeah,
no, best marketed thing anyone's ever fucking thought of. I don't know who came up with that name, but if it was him, he deserves to win just because of that. Because, right? God damn it, he can sell anything to anybody. Send him over to the G7. He'll win, bro. He'll win.
G7, possibly the G8 in the future. Yeah. We don't know. But the thing I want to talk about this is Andrew Yang's $1,000 a month freedom dividend. That, I think, is the solution to cure so many societal woes that we have. I mean, if you had an extra $1,000 in your pocket every month for the rest of your natural fucking life,
dude,
your annual income goes up $12,000,
and
there's so much more freedom to just feel secure in what you're doing. There is so much more freedom. You're able to relax more. You're able to maybe go on a couple annual vacations a year. If you're in a good spot and you like where you are, and that $1,000 a month isn't going to make or break you. It's not going to like add a shit ton of great stuff to your life. You're not going to, that isn't going to be the linchpin between you affording a house and not affording a house or whatever it is. If you're above that threshold where you're really comfortable, that's an extra $1,000 a month to go do fun things and put money back into the economy and boost the whole nation. Exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to work 60 hours a week anymore.
Spend more time with my family and we would do more fun shit. Like exactly. I would pay off my debt, and then when I don't have any debt anymore, what the fuck I'm going to save some money, but I have a paycheck now,
and you can invest that into things. I mean, there can be people that just take that $1,000 a month and just squirrel it in the fucking stock market. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden you got stockholders that would have never once thought about being involved in that. They can invest in themselves by, like us, doing a higher quality podcast with some serious fucking, high quality technology around us to boost our stuff, right?
We had all our money for that.
That could help. Let's say, we're pretty comfortable where we're at, but I mean, like, if we could afford to pay rent on a fucking studio or something like that, it's like there is endless possibilities of this stuff.
Not and that I don't love this studio,
and to just brush it off as a wild idea. I mean, you don't think any one of those shooters who is a desperate human being, obviously, and is torn up in some fashion, an extra $1,000 in their pocket a month, you don't think that might dissuade them from radicalization?
Yeah, money doesn't buy
you're a much happier
but that'll
person
make anyone a little bit happier.
Because you have less stress in your life, because you can afford better things. You don't have to worry about paying rent. You don't have to worry about something, which it doesn't drive you to the dark corners of the internet.
And we should talk for a moment about, again, we've talked about this before, but just in to be fair, right?
To be fair,
we should talk about where he talks about it coming from, right? Because this $1,000 a month would be a replacement of the entitlement programs, or what are called the entitlement programs that exist now, right? Because entitlement program seems like an apt name, but I don't love it because it seems like it carries like an inherently negative connotation to me. That it's like people feel like they're entitled to it, but
you technically are.
But right. So it is an apt name, but it seems like, especially because it generally comes
it's got a bad rap.
Yeah, it's not a great name. So
it's not the freedom dividend, I'll tell you that much.
Right. So the freedom dividend is in lieu of these entitlement programs that exist in the form of like food stamps and stuff like that. That this would, if you receive food stamps, you wouldn't receive that anymore. You would get this $1,000 a month. And it's also, we've talked about before, what is the value added tax? Which is like a percentage. I'm sorry, you explain it much better than I do.
It's a percentage on every purchase that you would make. Anywhere, and it's a very efficient way to charge pennies for things and create thousands and thousands of billions of dollars, whatever it is.
Combined, I'm sure, with some type of minute corporate tax increase because
fuck them.
And then I'm not saying fuck them, but
we don't want like a 50% tax.
But I also am at a point where I'm like, but fuck you, like pay more dollars.
You should not be paying less percentage than I do. That's all I'm saying.
Not at all.
If I'm paying 18 to 20% and 30% on fucking essentially capital gains, motherfucker, you should be too. Okay, I don't care how big a fucking company you are. If I making 60 G's a year, I don't know how much fucking money I make nowadays. I need to look that up. But if I'm making 60 G's a year, which I definitely am not, that
we would have nicer shit if he got 60 G's.
We would. I wouldn't be living in
a
garage.
He doesn't have any kids.
Say that much.
We would have nicer shit.
Dual income, I think we're closer to the thing. But anyways, but that, me making that amount of money, paying 20% tax roughly between L&I, state shit, and all this other stuff. If Amazon doesn't pay at least 20, I got a problem with that because the single, the regular ass American working a blue collar job. We are a dual income family because we do not have kids. If we had kids, we would be a single income family and things would be a lot fucking harder. But if I'm paying X amount of taxes and just a rough percentage, if I'm paying 20%, Amazon better be fucking paying 20% too.
They should be loopholing down to 20%.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying we're not Bill de Blasio 70%ers.
Fuck Bill de Blasio.
We do.
He's a groundhog murderer.
We do not by any means think that the corporate tax rate or the 1% tax rate should be 70%. Right? That's ludicrous. Right? Especially if you're a private person, if you're not keeping at least half your money, what the fuck is going on here?
Exactly.
Right? And again, I'm not saying that 50% is an acceptable amount, but no one should be taking more than half of what you're making every year. Yeah. Unless you're making it by nefarious means, you should not be losing half of your money to the government because you make a bunch of money. No. That's ludicrous, right?
That's a penalization for being successful.
Right. But I'm saying if you set a corporate tax, or I don't even know what percentage, but at a percentage where you can loophole yourself at a
flat tax.
Reasonable loopholes, right? Down to not some crazy backwards shit, but reasonable, standard corporate loopholes where you just get a standard lawyer and he'll find your way. That if he can loophole you down to 35%, I'm cool with it. 35%, 30%, but you shouldn't be paying 0% federal taxes, 10% federal taxes. I don't make that much money. Like you said, you shouldn't be paying less percentage of taxes than I do. Fuck that.
The percentage is key to me because when we're talking about people, a flat tax, right? I'm a fan of the flat tax. I'll just lay that out right now. Whether you're a corporation or a small business, a big business, whatever the fuck it is, everyone should pay the same fucking exact amount, percentage wise in taxes, unless you make under. I think unless you make under, if you make under 50 G's, combined household income, right? Actually, I'd probably raise that up these days to about 75. I think if you make combined, if you're a dink family, a dual income, no kids, right? If you're pulling in $75,000 a year or less, you should be exempt from federal tax because what we are talking about,
Offie for president 2020.
We are talking about the bottom of the fucking barrel of total taxes collected percentage wise. We're donating fucking, fractions of pennies into the public purse. All right. It won't kill anybody. It won't hurt anything for those people to not fucking pay a shit ton of taxes, for not forfeit 20 to 25% of their paycheck every year. I'm going to get another profit distribution here sometime by the end of the year, right? Because
he part owns the company.
Because as a business owner, as a part of a business owner, that is my right to be able to share in the profits of my company that I bought into.
Is his right.
And but I'm going to get taxed at 30% for that.
God damn.
Right? Why? Because we are a successful company that makes money. That's
like overtime. Working overtime, you get taxed more for working overtime.
Yes, you do.
The fuck?
Trust me, I know all about that.
You're
talking to a guy that works 60 hours a week, bro. I know. Know.
Yeah.
You've seen that shit on your pay stub.
That's why you got to get paid time and a half so you don't get fucked on your dollars.
Exactly.
Yeah, because time and a half sounds cool, but you're not really getting paid time
even
and a half.
Then, gross income.
Yeah.
I forget if it's net or gross or whatever the fuck it is. Before tax income.
That's the gross. Yeah.
That's where they fuck you because you get put into a different tax bracket and then all of a sudden your taxes go from 12% to 18 fucking percent.
And that's
you.
And that's when we talked about when Isaiah was here and we talked about healthcare. That I can't attest for however many people in the United States, but I know that I'm not the only one that is in a position where my gross pay does not match what I'm taking home after my health insurance and after everything, and I'm going to make less money if I get charged for federal health care. Mm-hmm. I will not make as much money. And that doesn't make any sense to me. And I shouldn't be put into damn near poverty because I am getting something different that's probably going to be about what I'm getting right now. That doesn't make any sense, and I'm not the only person who's in that place. So this whole Medicare for everybody, the same thing for everybody, doesn't work the way that people are talking about it, right? And I'm not saying it's fucking impossible, but it doesn't take into account people like me that I know exist in this country that get decent or good healthcare through their company that will pay more money if they get federal healthcare.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't make any sense. That does not make any sense. That if you're doing the right thing, you're eating well, because I paid almost $4,000, almost $5,000 to find out I had IBS.
Yep.
To do all these different tests, right? Because my deductible is at this point that I still didn't reach. I had to pay all this out of pocket, right? To find out I have IBS, to be told, change your diet, take fiber, and take probiotics. Just take increasing amounts until you find one that helps your stomach, and you'll be fine. How long? Probably forever.
All right.
Cool. Really glad I just spent all of this money here with my health insurance, right? That, again, I'm like, the same thing is going to be done. Like, that money put over, because since I did that, I've been fine, right? So now that I'm doing all these things, and I'm not going to the doctor unless I'm fucking deathly ill and I need some type of antibiotic, why? Why should I be actively paying more money to take home less money for my family? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it.
So
it de-incentivizes harder work.
Yeah.
Like, why do I want to make more money if less of it's gonna come home with me?
Yeah. And the problem with that, and I think this is a good one to talk about, because that Medicare for All it's Bernie's baby, but most of the candidates have adopted this.
Yeah, especially
in some
Elizabeth
form.
Warren.
But what we're talking about here is essentially making it so that your employer cannot provide you health care, which puts you on, essentially, you have to go to the arms of the federal government to take care of you.
Yeah.
Which you are going to be paying more. And if it's anything like what we saw in the Obamacare switchover, you'll be paying 5 to 100% more, if not more than that, than what you pay now for this same exact coverage. Yeah. You paid $5,000 to find out you had IBS because you couldn't hit that probably $7,000 to $10,000 deductible, whatever the standard, bottom line plan is. You had to pay all that out of pocket, versus if you were solely in, say, the Obamacare, at the level of your salary, your joint family income, you would have to be competing more or less in the private market, because you're going to get very little in the way of federal subsidies for you. And you're going to be paying $600 to $700 a month on top of the extra money you're going to pay out of pocket to get to that $7,000 to $10,000 deductible.
Yep.
And so you're now paying thousands of dollars to find out you have IBS.
Right.
And that is the real reality of the situation if we switch over to a purely government-run healthcare system. There's no other way around it. I mean, we've tried it before.
Right.
Unless we completely get rid of all private insurance whatsoever, and there is a federal mandate, and there is just zero market. If the federal government comes in and decimates the entire insurance industry as far as healthcare is concerned, and is the sole proprietor of healthcare, then you'll be paying a shit ton more extra.
And I want to be clear about this, right? Because this is we're talking about someone who's in a scenario similar to myself, right? Because in this particular scenario, you're very correct, right? And I just say I want to be clear, because there are a lot of people in this country that would benefit very highly from a Medicare for All program, right? There are a lot of people. There's also a lot of people who would not benefit from Medicare for All program. Yep. I happen to fall into that side, right? And I'm not trying to sell Medicare for All. I don't think either of us are, as a totally negative thing. We're using ourselves as examples because we are very much people that exist in the middle class, what should be the middle class, right?
Yeah.
We very much exist there. So we're speaking to what we think is a fair amount of people, the people that will be affected greatly by this, And I think that that's important, that if you're in a scenario like we are, if this is the situation that you live in, then you should know that, Mm-hmm. It's important that you understand that. I just don't want anyone to be, definitely. Fuck you, I need Medicare for All and blah, blah, blah. Like there's no shortage of people that will be in a better place with federally provided health insurance. Mm-hmm. But there's also no shortage of people that will be in a worse place if they're being charged more money in taxes because they're not paying very much for their health insurance and getting okay health insurance and doing fine because they're just staying healthy.
Because I'm going to be very transparent for a second, and I'm going to reveal a little bit of my personal life here. where we are at financially, we are in a position where, due to the fucked up nature that is our housing market in this area, I don't think I've told you this right. It's absolutely insane. I can get a house of equal or greater square footage and overall quality back in fucking Long Island, where I used to live in Long Island in New York, for half the fucking price than I can find a house for the equivalent price or square footage and quality and amount of land that I can in Kitsap fucking County.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. Mind you, there are a billion aspects to why we're there, which Derek Kilmore kind of touched on a little bit, and then I've been talking to some engineer friends of mine and stuff about the infrastructure bill.
Answer questions about it because he came from a world. He loves that. He came from a world of economic development, and he talked about housing and especially in the realm of like cities and stuff like that. So of urban development. So
urban development.
So he definitely knows about housing and will probably be able to answer some questions about that.
And I don't know if you guys were there for that portion of it because you were like 10, 15 minutes late.
Yeah, like 15 minutes late.
So you might have heard some of it, and I got to pee so fucking bad. It's terrible.
Like 15 minutes late.
Yeah, not much. But the problem is he only talks about 30 minutes, and then it was just questions.
Which was kind of nice.
Yeah. It was dope.
Hella slides, though.
Should we just pause button here?
Yeah, we can take a little break if you want. That's fine.
Word. So we'll be right back with more Salt of the Streets. Well, Big Bird goes pee. And we're back. As per the usual, that was the great Upper Left theme song that we have for you.
Shout out Left.
Shout out to Upper Left. And we also should touch on this real quick. Shout out to Isaiah. The motherfucker was on here a few weeks ago. The dude hosted the draft this year at his place. Yes. It was fucking perfect.
Excellent, right?
So shout out Isaiah. You're the fucking man.
Him and Cody cooking the whole time.
Although, it's fucking, again this year, it's me and Isaiah first matchup.
Yep.
And slated projected points. He's projected to beat me by like 11 points.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. You never know. Those projections are basically bullshit.
Yeah. I think we might try and get together for the first game on Thursday. If not, then maybe on Sunday.
Ooh.
So I probably got to wait till I get paid again. But yeah, we'll probably try and get some people together for
that would be dope
for one of the games. So.
That would be dope. Find a nice mid spot for everybody to hang out in.
Yep.
You know, exactly. I understand I live out in bumfuck, so I can drive anywhere that I need to be.
Probably a Silverdale type area.
Oh, hell yeah. So. I wanted to go to the WAB so fucking bad last night.
Yeah.
Because we were meeting some friends of ours that, Jordan and Caleb, which you have met, because small fucking world. These friends of ours moved back up from Texas, and come to find out, they're like best friends with your fucking neighbor across the street. And then like all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, yeah, you know this guy, you know this guy. Wait, well, this is crazy.
Yeah, I was talking to him about the podcast one day, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's Salt of the Streets, and I like do it with this guy Colin and blah, blah. And he was like, oh, I know that guy. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, my girlfriend's like really good friends with him. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've known Jordan for a while now, actually. Yeah, she's let me see. She's the first one that got me into Doctor Who, first of all. Because she knew my brother for a while, and then I just got to know her through my brother, and then we just kind of all became friends after that. And then,
do you have any Doctor Who DVDs?
Negative.
Jordan's talked to me about digital Doctor Who a couple of times.
Doctor's a good fucking show.
Yeah.
We since they like started the newer ones, I don't even know what season. I'm a bad Doctor Who fan. We'll just say that. But when I watch it, I highly enjoy it.
The new one, not the old one.
Yeah, because it goes all the way back to, I think, to the 60s. I want to say maybe, but they like rebooted it up. I want to say probably in the 90s maybe, but it's significantly better, and they're still doing it now, and it's really good.
That's a long time.
It was, but. Anyway, we just finished up talking kind of candidates and stuff in that, and so now we're going to move on to some more broader topics because we have way too much fun talking about this shit.
Yeah, that's why we called it a grab bag show. Next week probably will be too, just so we can handle some more stuff.
Yeah.
So another thing that happened while we were gone, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they planned, some of our favorite representatives, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
They planned trips to go to Palestine.
There is no such thing as Palestine. Let me just...
And
they were going to go to Israel and visit the West Bank.
Yeah.
Which as is commonly referred to as occupied Palestine.
Yeah. And so, but on their, what are those called? Agendas or itineraries, it said that they were going to Palestine. And so before we start this, right? Indeed. I want to
Should we talk general geopolitics of Israel
just for
and
a
Palestine?
second, just because I want to put a stake in the ground, right? That maybe, I'm sure a bunch of people would be like, that's fucking ignorant, right? So the Israel-Palestine thing is not the biggest blip on my radar, right? Partially because it strikes me as, and this is like the ignorant part, right? Strikes me as at its core, a religious issue that bears no relevance on my life. Like this, and like I said, that's probably the ignorant part, right? But like and I just mean at the core, like the dispute between like the two religions, like that's not my business because I'm not religious. I don't go. That's just, it's not my beef, so I don't.
It is hard to have a stake in that unless you are tied directly to one of those two people.
And so
it's very hard.
So I'm not by any means saying it's irrelevant. It is a very relevant issue to America as a whole. But just and this is I obviously
it has been for a long time.
I obviously have my ear to the ground on no shortage of political issues. This one is just not a big deal for me because, like I said, I
specialize in geopolitical problems.
In my possibly very simplistic view, it's just not something that strikes me as like what's something that should be my concern. That I'm just like that's between you guys. Like figure out how to live
fucking figure
together.
it out.
I don't like what's. Isn't this 2019?
Thank God for Jared Kushner.
What happened to religious tolerance? So
it doesn't exist over there.
Yeah, so
it kind of does,
and that's I'm not saying that why can't you guys just be friends? I know it's not as simple as that. But
so in other words, we're not going to dive into the real geopolitical situation because ain't nobody going to figure that out anytime
and I
soon.
don't know that much about it because it's not something I concern myself with.
And it's incredibly complex.
There's obviously Ben Shapiro talks a lot about it. I mean, he's Jewish. The people on commentary talk a lot about it. They're Jewish. They're going to care a lot about it. Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, they're Muslim. They're going to care a lot about it. Like that's and that's like when we talked about, I'll link back to those episodes as well. Ilhan Omar's anti-Semitic.
Is it weird that
remarks.
I feel bad every time you say, I'm going to link back to that? I'm like, that's more work.
I'm getting really good at it. And I have a fantasy draft on Monday.
Oh yeah. Cause you're a multi-league dude.
I'm a quad leaguer.
Jesus Chrisst. Yeah. I would be interested in getting into a dynasty league at some point.
I'm in a dynasty league now with like Ryan, Drew is in it, Casey is in it, and then a couple of the dudes that are Ryan and Shay's friends that I've never met before that I'm in another league with. That's the one I'm drafting for on Monday.
Well, if you ever need a +1 to your dynasty leagues, hit me up.
I'll remember that. There's almost every year there's someone dropping out.
Because I have a problem. Okay. Just to reference this, and we'll just get it off the table and keep moving on to Israel and
because we got to talk about this for a minute and then go to sports anyway. So.
Yes. Well, fuck it. We'll just hit into sports.
So we, that's why when we talked about Ilhan Omar's anti-Semitic remarks, I was like, I don't know why we're arguing about this because she's Muslim, right? I'm like, she's Muslim. She's from an area where this would be contentious. Like, so why is this even an argument that, and I'm not saying that it's right. I'm like, but I don't,
because Ilhan Omar is from Somalia.
And so again, she's not from, Israel or like the West Bank or whatever you want to call it. Right. I'm not trying to lean any political way but I was like, again, not that it makes it okay, but why are we like, she would never do something like that. I'm like, but she probably would, right? Like, because, if we're talking about how strong her ties are to where she comes from, because that's so important, right?
She's very involved in the BDS movement.
I'm like, so what do you mean? Like, what do you mean she would never do that? Because that seems like it's like logical that might happen for many reasons. So I'm like, why is this an argument?
Right?
I thought that was really weird, So
let me, before you dive into this,
yes.
It's funny when we were at the DK town hall.
Yes.
Right. And when we were leaving, you were talking to one of his staffers and giving her the podcast stuff. And I just, getting into this, I just keep thinking, like, what if Derek Kilmer was listening to this episode?
So
what would he think about us?
I'm actively trying to swear less this episode. When you're editing, you will notice I'm actively trying to swear less. And I decided,
I'm very proud of you for that.
And I decided after this week, I'm going to go back to joints instead of. Because I almost did it again.
Have I been cursing more this episode than you? I think I have been.
Yeah.
Wow. That's how you can tell I've been out the game for a minute.
Yeah, and as much as I love smoking the bong, I think that it just looks better for marketing purposes. So I'll switch back to it's the right thing to do. And when I first started doing it again, I was like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And I'm like, well,
free speech and all that. There's marketing.
So Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar representatives, they planned a trip to the Westbank.
Yes.
And it was, in the case of Rashida Tlaib, she was going to go and see her grandma, but then the government of Israel wasn't going to allow them to go there because they have to land in Israel and then like take a bus or, whatever the fuck into the West Bank. And so Israel wasn't going to allow them to go there. And then there was this huge uproar, that the government wasn't going to allow them to go. And so the government of Israel then said, you can come here if you promise to not campaign for the BDS movement or, pro-Palestine or anything like that. Just come here and be chill. And you can come here and you can see your family and everything will be fine. And for a slight moment, Rashida Tlaib said, okay, like, I'll do that. And then I don't even remember how long, probably not even a day.
It was quick.
Yeah, she came back out and said, no, I'm not going to go if I can't, do whatever I want to do if you're going to infringe on my free speech. After a very emotional press conference or interview, I don't remember which one, about going to see her grandmother and she's being stopped from seeing her family and, all this stuff. And then
all of a sudden she could care less.
Yeah. And
which was weird.
She said that her family told her that she should not compromise her values. And so that's why she said she made this decision, which I can't speak to, whether or not that's true, but that's what she said. And
I wanted to find that the name of the organization that they were kind of generally tied to over there that was causing that kind of red flag for the Israeli government.
Yes.
Because they were the ones that they were essentially going to be attached to them and bring them around and all this. And it was an organization known as MIFTA, who has a lot of anti-Semitic ties, we'll just say, in general.
And all the while, obviously, this is happening. The president decides that he's going to chime in. And after it comes out that the representatives are planning their trip there, he tweets that it would be weak of Israel. I don't remember exactly what his quote is, but it was something along the lines of it would be weak of Israel to allow these representatives to come there because they're not pro-Israel. And it was, some people say, a reaction to, but it came afterwards, after Trump tweeted these things, after the president tweeted these things, that Israel made the announcement and decision that they were not going to allow the representatives to go there. Whether or not that is a reason that decision was made, no one knows, but many people believe that was the case.
Literally, first paragraph of the New York Times article, and this is one of the things that got me so disillusioned when I came back, is reading all this stuff. In the first paragraph, Rashida Tlaib, we'll just read the first paragraph. Israel relented slightly on Friday after barring Representative Rashida Tlaib under pressure from President Trump. And it's that type of just little half a sentence
because it's
thrown in there
tweets.
That it's a fucking tweet that he put out, and now they're going to report on this thing as fact that President Trump has been putting pressure on the government of Israel to not allow these people to come in, which is disingenuous as fuck to begin with.
Again, to be fair, Netanyahu and Bibi Netanyahu and President Trump are close allies. They get along really well.
On a weird level.
But so there are many reasons that people say these two things are connected, but there is no apparent evidence other than these tweets, that's why the decision was made. It's because it's not like there was an official announcement that came out that from the White House that the president had called Bibi Netanyahu and said, hey, don't let these bitches in here because you're going to look like a bitch if you do it, you know? So, and there's nothing that's a terrible.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm trying to motherfuckers in the New York Times take that.
I shouldn't talk about them that way.
And run with it, right? Yeah. As like objective fact.
Yeah.
And not understanding that Benjamin Netanyahu also has fucking Twitter. Using it a lot better than the way Trump does, by the way. To not understand that, like, the conversations that happen on Twitter are not factual news to report from a responsible news outlet. It's, I don't know what's going on at the Times and the Washington Post, but the last couple of weeks have been so bad, transparently just abhorrent that I have a hard time reading a New York Times article now over Washington Examiner. It's because bad, at least I know that when I read the Washington Examiner, I'm going to get a heavy conservative bent. But when I grab the facts that they put out and I throw them into the fucking Google machine, I'm going to get facts that corroborate that from leftist outlets as well. But you can't do that anymore with the New York Times and the Washington Post most of the time. And for them to run on a line like that and just assume that President Trump has pressured Benjamin Netanyahu to not allow these yahoos into their country, where it's pretty obvious that if any of them followed if the Israeli government has followed any of what the squad posts on their Twitter or social media or just in public addresses whatsoever, is enough for them to be like, no, dude, I don't want you here.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking simple. And you cannot just cast shade on President Trump for being the sole owner of that responsibility. It makes no objective sense. And for a legitimate news network like New York Times to report on something like that as objective fact is so, I don't have any other word than like disillusioning. Yeah. It's so mind-blowing. And so I didn't mean to like totally interrupt and take fine. That, but so they go over there, or they do this process and the whole thing, and then Rashida Tlaib ends up appealing more or less to the Israeli government to say, hey, this is a humanitarian thing. My grandmother, who I wish to see, is like, I want to say in the 90s. She's really old, and like, this will probably be the last time I ever see her. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they started to kind of reach a back and forth, she pulls out and says, well, I'm not going to go anymore.
Yeah.
I don't get where the controversy is there.
Yeah.
That's the problem. There was a controversy reported that I don't feel like there's a real controversy there to begin with. You know, we have broken down their statements on the podcast more than once and lined them up with the State Department definitions of anti-Semitic speech, and they have word for word, verbatim, fallen under anti-Semitic. Why would you think that a Jewish state of Israel would not want them in their country?
Well, and I think that it's interesting from representatives that make the argument that it's President Trump's rhetoric that has incited the mass shootings, right? I think it's interesting that the same argument won't be made for them if they go into Israel and they campaign for BDS values and they campaign for pro-Palestine, that the same thing doesn't stand to happen, that a country that in two territories, whatever you want to call them, that already stand on such like eggshells all the time between violence and rockets and, you know, all these different things that happen. Why would you not think the same thing would happen if you go and you do something over there and you speak in favor of something that stands to incite violence? Like in an area that's more sensitive, arguably, than it is in America.
Oh, highly.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't think, for a number of reasons, it makes sense why the government of Israel wouldn't want them there, like you said. Yeah. So
it's one of those like much to do about nothing stories.
Right. Because we talked about it when we talked about the shootings last week, or, you know, last time we were here, that I don't believe the narrative that it's people's rhetoric that's inciting violence, right? But if you're the ones that are making that argument, like these two representatives are, then why are we not making the same argument for the things that you may or may not say when you're over there, you know?
Yeah.
So
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There was one thing I did kind of want to hit. I know we're getting real close, so maybe we'll just touch on it real quick.
What?
The Republican Party.
Yes.
Is in massive, massive trouble. And let's just save this for next week.
All right.
Now that I think about it, because I want to dive into that. So preview for next week. That's a cheat topic. Boom. No show, very little show prep to be done there.
Pull up.
There was a tweet. So just for context, there was a tweet from a guy named Mike Gerke, who used to be a part of the Clinton administration and was part of the campaign for a number of Democrats, heavily involved in the DNC and stuff like that, who had put out a tweet that kind of looked at where the Republican Party has been and is after Trump got elected. And, a vast number of Republicans. And I think you see them now. You keep hearing it on all these different podcast stuff, how this representative or this senator isn't going to run for re-election next year. Not going to run for re-election next year. This person is not going to seek re-election next year. And they're all Republicans. And I think there's a serious conversation I think that I want to have around the general state of the Conservative Party, the Republican Party, next time we're together.
Yeah.
So let's just think about that and keep that in mind.
You really like the 538 podcast, and they're really into polls and fucking.
I love 538.
So I can see what
I think Nate Silver can be a fucking crazy person, but god damn it, man! If there is somebody that will report on news that you can tell they don't necessarily like to report, but they do. Yeah, that's 538, which they're owned by ABC.
I noticed that,
which is weird.
It's super weird.
Fucking. My hat's off to the 538 people, man, because they have their own leanings, obviously, but they do not let it affect the facts that they report. And
they make good shit.
It is really, really good.
Yeah.
So we're about to pull up our fantasy rosters.
Yeah, because I got to be out of here by 4 because the Ducks play today.
Yeah, go Beavers.
This is the last week before real football. And so next week we are going to... What I'm gonna do is because it's 3:30, so we have a little bit of time. I'm gonna pull up what the schedule is for next week, and we're gonna pick who we think is gonna win the games.
Okay,
and that way we can stay a week ahead every week.
Definitely.
On Monday, people will get to hear our predictions for the following week.
Oh
so,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It.
So so we're gonna do it this week so that we can stay ahead.
A step ahead this year. I like it.
So sports. So we're out here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over the notes for this week so that you can pull up your fucking fantasy roster. And then we'll go over our rosters. How did I pick a
San Francisco quarterback? I hate myself.
And then we're going to go over our fantasy rosters, and then I will talk about what the schedule is for the first week of the NFL, and we'll pick our teams, and then we will hit a line and get the fuck out of here.
Do what?
So... just this morning, the Bills cut their running back, LaShawn McCoy. Also, just this morning, the Texans traded their linebacker, Jadeveon Clowney, to the Seahawks for a 2023 round pick, as well as linebacker Barkevious Mingo and Jacob Martin. I could not be any fucking happier than I am right now, right?
It's not often that I celebrate people clowning, but...
I know that it's only 1 year because he wants a fucking deal. He wants to get signed. It's whatever, right?
Not even a chuckle? That was rough, dude. That was rough. I thought that was semi-okay.
Was definitely a dad joke.
Yeah.
So, Jadeveon Clowney, right, lines up on the D-line all the time. We need that. We need that. Yeah, we don't know how long LJ Collier is going to be out because he fucked up like it's like a foot sprain or something like that. I think he's supposed to be there for week 1, but he may be back a little bit later than that. Anyway, LJ Collier. When Jaron Reed gets back in week 6, we have Poona Ford as another D tackle. We have fucking Ziggy Ansah on another side. Jadeveon Clowney, that's going to be a nasty fucking pass rush. It's going to be insane. It's going to be a nasty line.
And we need that so fucking bad. Yes. The pass rush, we've been lacking so hard on that. We let Brady pass on us like nobody's business.
And Jacob Martin is pretty good, but Markevious Mingo, definitely willing to let him go. I'm not at all worried about that.
Not married to Domingo, huh?
No, I'm not worried about Mingo at all. The Raiders,
Mingo.
The Raiders signed their center Rodney Hudson to a 3-year, $33.75 million extension. He's the highest paid center in the league.
Center's a good spot, though, man. You need a clutch center.
Yeah. Andrew Luck last week, right?
Yep.
he retired, like, out of nowhere in the middle of the game, decided he was going to retire. I watched some of what he talked about. I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm not like, I'm not a Colts fan, so I don't have any reason to be mad. I did. Yeah.
Nobody will blame you.
It happened. Might be insensitive, but it happened before our draft, so I don't like have any stake in that at all. I'm not worried about it. I did pick up Jacoby Brissett. He is on my bench, so we'll see. He's. I will say,
as a good commish though, you made sure that everybody knew that.
I told everyone
before we got in.
Yep,
nobody tried to accidentally draft him, which was a plus.
So, he said that he'd been battling with injury for 4 years. He didn't want to be playing like that anymore. It was making him not enjoy football. And Rob Gronkowski is a spokesperson for a CBD medicine line that he said helped him recover. And he spoke at that last weekend, and he said something similar, that he just was not enjoying the game anymore because he was just in such pain all the time, and it was just making him upset. He didn't want to play. He wasn't happy.
And I think that's a new thing we're going to see in football going forward, man.
People are retiring younger. Yeah.
They are too knowledgeable about things like CTE and the damage that a professional NFL career can bring to your body. And
yeah, Isaiah was talking. I wish I could remember his name. I should have had it, but Isaiah was talking about a linebacker that San Francisco had that led the team in tackles, played for 1 season, but he had degrees in something fucking awesome.
Oh, I remember.
And retired. Yeah, he was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. It's not worth, what I stand to risk. Yeah, it's not worth it. So,
because what you stand to risk is your life.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that we're realizing now.
That's why Cam Chancellor stopped playing, was because he was told by the doctors if he continued to play with his spinal issues, he stood to risk permanent paralyzation forever.
And looking at the hits that the fucking Cam train brought, you go, well, that makes sense. Nobody should fault him for that.
Yeah. So I'm not an NFL player, and so I'm not one to make that judgment of whether or not that's the right call. I'm not going to hate on anyone.
Term limits for football players.
I'm not going to hate on anyone for making what they feel like is the right decision, especially if you have a family, you have a wife and kids that just like he does. I'm not going to...
Was it Dougie Fresh that did his whole outro via Twitter?
Yeah.
All
those tweets and stuff.
You can't be mad at people for wanting to get out of the game.
No.
Especially when they're ahead.
Yeah. The Dolphins released their safety, TJ McDonald, who is an excellent safety. Looks like the Dolphins are just tanking. They're trying to tank. They're trying to get some more picks. They're trying to come back and just rebuild.
The same thing as last year. They're just slowly trying to build up, because they know it's a slow process to build up a good team.
Yep. And then Zeke Elliott and Melvin Gordon, running backs, they're still holding out. They've both indicated that they're willing to hold out through the season into regular season games, and just see what happens. So that's gonna fuck with a lot of people in the world of fantasy. Again, I'm not an NFL player, so if you got to get your money, you got to get your money. I know Zeke is going in 2 years early that he's trying to request an extension, so I think that's a little wild, but whatever you got to do. So that's all I have for news. As far as fantasy rosters, we had our draft. We are in a 14-team league. My wife is in it. Colin is in it. Morgan is in it. We had a bunch of other people in it, Chad and Isaiah and a bunch of people. So
all friends of the podcast.
Yeah, it is, like I said, 14-team, $50 buy-in, so it's a $700 winner-take-all pot. This year we switched from, if you don't, pay attention to fantasy, it doesn't matter, but we switched from waivers to fab budgets, so you have a certain amount of dollars that you spend, fake dollars that you spend on buying players and stuff like that, as free agents. And
is that factored in already?
Yes. Yeah, just on waivers. People who are right now, they're free agents, so you can just pick them up, but after they play, then they're on waivers, so you got to spend dollars to do that. And it's already set up. Everyone has $200. So
the fucking commish, dude, is on it. There's a reason you got your money back last year. Because with a 14-people league, man,
it's tough.
There's a lot of management.
It is tough.
And I give it to you hands down, bro. I don't know how you have the fucking headspace to deal with this. But my hat's off to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So my draft went as follows. My QB is Josh Allen. I'm a late round quarterback drafter.
Garbage.
My running backs, Kerryon Johnson and Josh Jacobs. My wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins and Mike Williams. My tight end, Delaney Walker. We have 2 flexes in this league instead of 3 wide receivers. I have Mark Ingram and Duke Johnson Jr. in my flex. I have the Browns defense, and then I picked up Mike Badgley today as the kicker. My bench, I have Robbie Anderson, Devin Singletary, Michael Gallup, James Washington, and Jacoby Brissett Colin, what do you have?
So we got ourselves Jimmy Garoppolo as quarterback.
There you go.
Aaron Jones, Green Bay, as one of my running backs. David Montgomery of the Bears as my other running back. Julio Jones, I did pick up as wide receiver, who is sitting on a questionable status right now, but
he will be questionable all season.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I mean, he may miss a game or two, but he's not going to be, that's what he does. But he will be questionable all season. He'll play almost every game.
Yeah. And the big one for me, the big concern was Josh Gordon from the Patriots, wide receiver.
He looked good in the preseason.
He did. But it was still undetermined whether or not he was going to start week 1 up until about a day or two ago when I finally started to see those projected points hit the roster. I was like, okay, we're in. We got ourselves some Jared Cook from the Saints for tight end, Larry Fitz, who I'm more or less just going to watch on one of my flex spots because he can go either way. He
could be incredible. I mean,
he could be incredible
receiver.
And he could be garbage.
Yeah, but they have that new rookie quarterback there he likes to run. So we'll see, we'll see how Kyler Murray and Larry Fitzgerald. I would imagine because Larry Fitzgerald is such a veteran that Kyler Murray and him might mesh really well. But if their play styles just don't work together, then we'll see what happens.
And that's why I think it's a gamble, and we need to watch him.
Yeah,
but Royce Freeman,
not a bad pick.
And my other flex is sitting at Royce Freeman of Denver. I got the Saints
duck
D.
right there. Royce Freeman's a duck.
That's the problem. And then I kind of followed in your footsteps a little bit. I drafted a lot of running backs and wide receivers first.
The way to be, especially in this league.
Yeah, and then I figured, quarterback, I want to try to get a semi-decent a tight end, same thing. But when it came down to kicker, I was like, I don't really give a shit. Who I pick up for kicker, as long as they're going to play.
Yeah, we had a vote to get rid of kickers, and most people were not fans of it, so that's why we kept them. We had a couple of votes this year. We also switched so that whoever comes in last place,
so your mom's got to buy dinner for the winner.
Yeah. No, she drafted pretty well this year.
She did.
Actually.
She changed up the program.
Yeah, so we'll see who comes in last place. But the last place has to buy dinner for the person who won, who also takes your money. And there's a trade deadline this year. We didn't have one before. And just for anyone who's like, what the fuck? When I first started playing fantasy, the league I started in didn't have a trade deadline. So I didn't implement one in our league because I didn't really know that was a thing. Voted on this year, so we have a trade deadline right before the playoffs start. So
break down the trade deadline for me. So this is more or less just before the playoffs start.
Yep, the week before the playoffs start, after on Sunday when the games start, there's no more trades. So
free agents?
Yeah, you can still pick people up, just no trades in between teams.
So in other words, those other teams, because they're playing in loser brackets and stuff like that, they can still have the ability to trade players, and you want to kind of negate
players.
Yeah, so you want to negate the fact that, like, okay, well, you two we know are in the playoffs. You guys got to run, so now I'm willing to trade you the one good player I have.
So as to deter that, and they don't want to be in last place because they have to buy dinner for someone who just took
definitely.
So.
I'm a big fan. Fan of that.
So it's brutal this year. And then next year, I think we're going to talk about like some weekly payouts because that would be nice too.
That would be fun.
If we did $60 buy-in instead of a $50 buy-in, and then every week we did, a $10 payout to whoever scored the highest that week.
Yep.
Like you could still come in last place, but still walk away with $50 because even though you lost every week, or whatever, like it
was like me last year, man, on fire. First half of the season, and then after that, just tanked it.
Exactly,
like I could get my money back every year. That would be a real dope thing. Look, we're fucking spreading out the public purse like a fucking federal government.
Exactly. I am a benevolent leader. You know what I'm saying?
And I will say, I was highly impressed at for lack of a better term, the professionalism at which people drafted this year. This was serious.
Was great. Yeah,
a $50 buy-in weeds out the bullshit.
Gets real now. Yeah.
I think that's it. The jump between, because last year was 40, right?
Yes.
So the jump between 40 and 50, all of a sudden, we crossed a threshold.
It was hard to find because 2 or 3 people left the league in the offseason. It was hard to find that last person to fill the 14th spot because I think $50 can be a deterrent, but $700
is a fucking incentive.
Really nice. Yeah. So,
and the new addition to the league this year,
Jordan with an A.
Jordan with an A.
We went to high school with him. That's how we know him.
I was wondering how he seemed like a really nice guy.
He graduated high school with us, and I've actually gone to school with him since elementary school. So I've known him for a long time. His grandparents used to live up the road from where I grew up. Well, they still live there. We just don't live there.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're friends on Facebook, and I was looking for a last person, and he posted on Facebook. He was like, "Hey, is there anyone looking to fill a spot in their fantasy league?" And so I messaged him. I was like, "Here you go." It's like, it's $50. But it's 14 teams. It's fucking hard. But if you want to play, it's your spot. So he showed up. He drafted well. He brought beer. It was.
I think everybody drafed well this year. Even your mom. I was very happy. The
past couple of years, there has been a team or two that has been absolute dog shit. But it was much, much better this year. Very equal.
Yeah, I felt like a fish out of water for a minute because I was like, "Oh shit, these people we're serious about this."
Yeah, I know it's going to be a good deal.
I'm excited. I really am.
I
am not excited about having to reinsert fantasy footballers podcast into my regiment.
Yeah,
just because my time is so finite now.
They're fun to listen to.
I gotta fit one more in. How long is their podcast again? Generally,
it's like about an hour.
Okay,
usually
I can deal with that.
Under. So
I'm going to be tapped, but I can get that in.
So and then I have another draft on Monday, and then on Tuesday is my draft for the Bennett League.
Motherfucker, you are so into it.
I'm banging it, and I'm trying to win all these fucking leagues this year. I want all the dollars.
All the dollars.
Yep.
Somebody got to start funding Dax's college fund, right?
That's right. So.
All right. So we're going to go over the matchups.
Yeah, so this is the NFL schedule for next week. So we're going to go over the matchups. We're going to make our calls. And then are you going to keep track of this? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you just writing them down there?
I will keep track of both of ours.
Okay, I was going to say.
And I'm just going to pick the winners of each match.
Yeah, and we'll see what's up.
I write slow.
So the first matchup is Packers-Bears. First game is Packers-Bears. That's actually a pretty good game. You're going to go Packers.
I'm going Green Bay.
I'll go Packers. Yeah.
Okay.
We also have Chiefs, Jaguars. I'm going to take the Chiefs on that one. That's going to be a tough matchup, but I think I'll take the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'll go KC on that one.
Okay. The next one is Falcons, Vikings.
That's a toss.
I'm going to go Falcons week 1.
Falcons are tough. Yeah, especially week 1, I think.
Yeah, week 1.
Yep.
And
Hot Atlanta.
Yep, the next one is Titans, Browns. And I'm pretty sure, it's Tennessee at Cleveland. So Titans at Browns. I'm going to take the Browns on that one, actually.
Oh, I'm taking Tennessee.
I'm taking Browns week 1. The next one is Bills at Jets.
That's a shit show of a game.
I'm going to take the Bills.
I'm taking the Jets.
All right.
Mostly because of my time living in New York. I became a reluctant Jets fan.
Really?
Because if you live in New York for any period of time and you buy into the sports, you have to choose Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants. Yep. You got to choose, and I went with Jets every time. Mostly because it's more. They're more entertaining to watch than the Giants.
I would do that.
Manny and Eli is. Yeah. Fuck that guy.
And the next matchup is Ravens, Dolphins. I'm going to take the Ravens on that one. I want Baltimore.
Yeah. No, I think Baltimore on that one, definitely.
And after that is Redskins, Eagles. Jesus Christ, that is just that's a rivalry right there. Yeah. Also Redskins, Cowboys.
I'm taking Philly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Eagles on that one too. I think I like the Redskins. I have a weird thing about the Redskins. Like I like them for some reason. I don't have any connection to them at all, but I have I like players, them, and I want them to be good.
They've had a good fucking solid team for a long time.
Yeah.
The last few years they've had a really solid team. They just yeah. No, I totally get that.
After that is Rams, Panthers. That's going to be a good game. I think fuck.
That's tough.
I think the Rams are taking that one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll go with Rams just because I want to see fucking homeboy cry. That's St. Louis, right?
No, they are the LA Rams now.
That's right.
Yeah, they're LA
Rams.
After that is Colts, Chargers. I'm going to take the Chargers now. Andrew Luck is gone, so I think that the Chargers, they're also the LA Chargers.
Chargers who? And who?
And the Colts. It's the Colts at Chargers, so they're in San Diego. I think that it's the Chargers, especially with Andrew Luck being gone.
I'm going to... Shit. I don't know. I'm going to go going to go Colts.
You're going Colts? Oh my God. Now I can't wait to see how that game turns out.
Just because I don't know which fucking way that's going to go.
The next game is Seahawks-Bengals, and I obviously think the Hawks are going to win that game. The Bengals are ass.
Yeah.
After that is Giants-Cowboys. I think the Cowboys take that game even without Zeke.
Dallas and
then
Manning.
in Dallas, yeah.
And the fucking
York.
black swan of the Manning family. I really like. It's so hard because he's such garbage. He's such hot garbage, man.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I can't give it to him. So we're gonna have to go.
Going Dallas, dude.
Yeah, Dallas.
Yep. And then after that is 49ers Buccaneers. Terrible. What a horrible game.
I got to go San Francisco mostly because my Garoppolo.
I think I got to go San Fran too, yeah.
All right, Isaiah, that one's for you.
Yep.
I'm giving you San Fran.
After that is Lions Cardinals. I think it's the Lions. I like Matt Stafford too. I'm going Detroit.
All right, I'm going Arizona.
Word. After that is Steelers Pats, Steelers Patriots. That's going to be a good game. That's a Sunday night game. So that's what's up.
And the Pats are on a totally different dynamic.
I think the Patriots take it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think the Patriots take week 1 against the Steelers.
I hate to say it, but I got to give them to them as well.
Yeah.
So New England for both of us on that one.
And then there's 2 Monday night games, Texans Saints, and I think that the Saints take that one, but I think it's close. I don't think that it's like a blowout.
The Texans are getting good.
Yeah.
That's
and
the problem.
It's in New Orleans. That's why I think that Drew Brees wins, because it's at home for the Saints.
So St. Louis.
That's New Orleans.
Oh, why did I say St. Louis?
Because it's the Saints.
Nolans.
Yeah, New Orleans Saints.
Nolans.
That's why. And then the last one is Broncos Raiders. That is also a terrible game. I think the Raiders take that last one.
Yeah, Broncos are hot fucking garbage right now.
I'm taking Raiders for that last game. So those are our predictions for week 1 of the NFL. I'm really happy we did this because now we can stay a week ahead every single week.
So we've got Tennessee Browns, Jets, Bills, where we differ. Colts, Chargers, Arizona,
Detroit,
Lions. I'm like totally mixing up. Like, yeah,
you're
Arizona,
good, bro. No,
Detroit.
you're whatever.
Saints, Oak. Yep. So there's only 4 difference we're on. So if this was the old school Bennick Pick'ems League, we're in it, bro.
Well, maybe
should we fucking put some stakes between me and you?
I think that we could probably do that.
We could do that.
We'll figure next. So
yeah, because we got next week to think about it.
Yeah, we'll take a week to come up with some ideas of what we're going to wager, and then next week we'll decide when we see who wins, and if we have a different idea, then whoever wins, then their idea is what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I'm into that
deal. Okay, cool.
It.
Because I'm not in the Pick'ems League this year for Bennick.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I dialed back some of the...
That's healthy.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
healthy,
in the Pick'ems, and then Jordan is not in the Bennick League this year. And so I'm back to what I'm at now.
All right, let's get you out of here so you can go see your Dutch,
so that's it. So let me slap a fucking line on you real quick. Let me see here. How many dudes have you picked up at a bar, banged with your mouth, and then never talked to again?
Only one.
At least you're respectable.